Let's get started on this. Think Before You Sleep made a video seemingly in defense for Tectone, who, in case you guys haven't really been keeping up with the channel, has been credibly accused of sexual assault by Pinkchyu, who is an OnlyFans model. You know, I don't judge. You know, she does OnlyFans. That's just how she makes her bank. And, but I mean, the actual allegations levied against Tectone of sexual assault is very, very credible, according to the court document. And Tectone's response was absolutely god-awful to the allegations. It was like, actually, like, he was stalling the fuck out of them. And then by the time he talked about the most serious allegations, he only spent like 2 or 3 minutes on it, and then he moved on from it. So, that's interesting. Yeah, given the seriousness of the allegations, you would want to respond with, I didn't do that shit, if you really were innocent, but what can you do? Yeah, so Think Before You Sleep uploaded a video seemingly in defense for Tectone. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, Think Before You Sleep just seems to love sucking right-wing cum, I guess.
Tectone went to court today.
He did, in fact, go to court.
And he lost the court case against Pinkchyu. Tectone, with his 5 lawyers, lost. She had 1. And she won. That's how bad it was. For
Whoa!
the next 10 years, Tectone can't own guns and has to pay all of her...
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, the fact that the court deemed Tectone unsafe to be able to wield a firearm for 10 fucking years, I don't know, dude. It's not looking good for Mr. Tectone here.
attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thanks, Mizkif. We can always trust you to report things accurately. In case you haven't heard, Twitch streamer Tectone and an ex-girlfriend of his who
Jesus Christ, is this how I sound? Holy fuck.
goes by Pinkchyu have been in a legal battle after Pinkchyu publicly accused Tectone of sexually assaulting her. Recently, Pinkchyu filed for a protective order, which is to prevent stalking and harassment, and Tectone lost a motion to get it dismissed.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Now, before we get into all this, let me just say that I'm not even remotely neutral on whose side I'm on. I started out neutral. I started out with the mindset of, let's take a look at the facts of the case. Maybe there's some nuance here. Maybe both parties did something bad at certain points.
Like I said, if you read the court documents and you see that she was not only able to get a restraining order, but also a protective order, which is like an upgrade to a restraining order, not an easy thing to do. You have to fulfill quite a bit of criteria to get that. And Pinkchyu fulfilled enough criteria to get a protective order against Tectone. And like, it's to a point where Tectone can't even like utter her name. That's how like bad it is.
Usually that's how relationships in particular work. But my mind changed when I began researching, and I think after you guys watching see the details, you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is that this is a massive failure of the justice system.
Oh, great. I can't wait to see the bullshit. Because here's the thing, right? Like, the, earlier Mizkif mentioned the 5 lawyers thing, and technically that's not true. Tectone only had, like, 1 lawyer and then, like, some other attorney that wasn't really, like, in his case. It was more just, like, another attorney he was, like, consulting, but wasn't technically part of it. I don't know, like, all the details, but it definitely, like, whatever it wasn't 5 lawyers, so the sad reality is that Think Before You Sleep is just going to use that as, like, ammunition to be like, oh, look how not credible people are reporting this on, or look how not credible Mizkif was for leaking this information. So it's probably going to be the basis of this entire video.
Which is why this video is a defense of Tectone. It's about how...
Listen, I'm just going to be real with you. Anytime you run defense or are within the orbit of someone like Tectone, Asmongold, Nuxtaku, I am automatically going to just think you're not a good person. Tectone is, like, somebody who absolutely is fucking... he's just a disgusting person. Like, I am, like, inclined to believe that he is guilty of sexual assault because his response to it was terrible. The court documents are pretty credible. And the, you know, Asmongold and Tectone, they run defense for ICE. They run defense for pedophilia in the White House. You know, because Asmongold is aligning himself with Nick Fuentes. And, also with fucking, what's its face? Nuxtaku as well, who runs defense for Lolly. And Tectone did the same thing as well. So yeah, if you're going to run defense for people like this, or you're going to try to be within the orbit of these people, I'm just not gonna think that you're a good person. Like, there's a pretty hard line when it comes to this kind of stuff. I guess the only exception I'll make is, like, Emeru, who, like, doesn't really get involved in drama, but that's, like, a very, very small scenario.
In my opinion, none of the assault allegations were true, and it's about how this whole situation was a coordinated effort from multiple streamers to ruin his career. That being said, Tectone, or John, is a popular Twitch streamer who started out by playing gacha games.
I played Genshin Impact, so you don't have to. So it's Breath of the Wild, but worse, but with waifus. Also, be careful of shit-talking Paimon's English voice acting.
More recently, Tectone is known for calling out how entitled the least talented video game voice actors are, and for helping expose...
What does that mean? The least talented voice actors? You showed B-roll of, like, a woman with pink hair. Is he gonna take the route of just being like, oh, look at this, typical lefty, typical liberal with pink hair, fucking DEI hire, they're fucking ruining gaming, it's too fucking woke and stuff? Is that, like, the route that you're gonna take with this? Because, like, I feel like I've heard this script, like, a million fucking times. I swear to God, like, conservatives and, like, right-wing grifters are on, like, the same fucking... They have, like, the same hive mind. It's, like, it's the same fucking script, word for word, every time I hear it, and he's just, like... It's getting to a point where it's, like, I can smell it from horizons away.
Hassan Piker as
like Neptune levels of horizons away.
an animal abuser. And this is Pinkchyu.
Hey officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Wait, hold on. I need to go back and listen to that again.
Game voice actors are, and for helping expose Hassan Piker as an animal abuser. And this is Pinkchyu.
Hey officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Rough?
Good boy.
Okay. I mean, like, obviously she does, like, a lot of short-form content that's, like, thirst-trapping and, like, has a lot of sexual innuendos. I mean, like, whatever. I don't particularly care that much. She's doing what she's got to do to promote her OnlyFans. Like, it is what it is. But you're telling me Hassan shocking his dog is on the same level as Pinkchyu making short-form content to promote her OnlyFans? You're saying, like, these two are comparable? Okay. Great argument, Mr. TBYS.
Well, that was cringe. Anyway, Pinkchyu, who also...
Yeah, again, this is going to be... We have to understand... get used to this, because this is going to be the tone throughout this entire video, is that, like, Pinkchyu does OnlyFans, therefore she's a whore and she's lying. That's going to be the energy of this entire video that Think Before You Sleep is going to take. And so... Like, any valid allegations that Pinkchyu has is going to be, like... Think Before You Sleep is just going to absolutely dismiss it and then, like, insult the shit out of her. It's just like, okay. Like, yeah, are you allowed to think that the video was cringe? Fine, whatever. But, like, he just compared it to Hassan shocking his dog, which I would say is probably worse than making a cringe OnlyFans promo video.
Goes by her middle name Ashley, is an OnlyFans creator who's achieved success after getting a very noticeable amount of plastic surgery, followed by a generous use of photo editing tools.
Isn't this video, like, very recent? What?
I mean, this is an insane amount of catfishing. I'm not even looking...
Bro, these photos are, like, 2 months old. I hardly noticed the difference. I don't even think she's that unattractive in either of these photos, either. It's like... Okay. What is the... Like, why bother including this in your video?
at the same person when I compare a live stream to a photo of her, which brings us to November 20th, 2024, where Pinkchyu goes on an alternate account to make a post accusing someone of forcing her into oral sex, and everyone immediately assumed that she was talking about Tectone.
If you can believe it, Tectone actually is a piece of shit. His ex-girlfriend, Pinkchyu, she's come out to speak about his sexual assault against her. How do you know that she's referring to Tectone? Because it's on LSF and they're not following each other anymore.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pinkchyu was referring to Tectone. I mean, there were also obvious context clues like saying they live together, and who posts something to a public forum if they believe that the audience isn't going to know who they're talking about? So let's be clear.
I don't know, maybe she thought that she would be at peace if she, like, came forward and talked about it in a way that she was comfortable with? Who knows?
Everybody on the internet knew this was Tectone despite her not saying his name in the post. So obviously Tectone had to respond, and he did so at first by not specifically naming who he was talking about.
So if you're confused, you're going to stay confused. Because this shit is not about content for me. Okay? I know the person who needs to hear this is going to hear this. And I mean this genuinely. I did everything for you. I helped you with everything. I fixed everything for you. I was there for you like nobody else was there for you.
I'm not trying to be, like, weird, and, like, this is not necessarily proof on its own that, like, Tectone is abusive or a narcissist, but, like, this is the kind of language that narcissistic people use, is like, I did everything for you, I did this for you, I did that for you. Well, this sort of happened in the middle of my recording, but, I just got an Amber Alert on my phone because New York is going through a massive snowstorm right now, so, I guess we'll just include that in the video. Fuck it. I mean, like, I wasn't planning on that, but there you go. As I was saying, just because Tectone is, like, saying all of this stuff, I did this for you, I did that for you, like, this is language that a lot of narcissistic people do use to try to make it seem, like, to justify their actions of, like, abuse. Right? They, like, try to get them to feel like, oh my god, they did do these things for me. Oh my god, they did do that for me. And it keeps the cycle of abuse going. Like, this is... I don't know. That's the vibe that I get from this clip. Maybe some of you guys will pick up on it too. Maybe not.
In your whole life. Your words, not mine.
Now, he does sound pretty mad here, which is why people such as Denims interpreted this as a definite confirmation that he was an abuser.
Your words, not mine.
Oh my god, he even talks like an abuser. Holy shit.
You know, I fucking hate Denims, but, like, she's kind of right here. Like, I picked up on the same language.
Very glad
Thank you.
Tectone is
It's
such a
generous of you.
dumbass.
I don't know why. Also, by the way, why are you showing clips of Denims to begin with? Okay. That's very offline behavior, Mr. Think Before You Sleep.
That he doesn't realize how bad this makes him look.
Because Denim's opinion on the matter is, like, the gospel and what everybody left-leaning thinks about this.
Well, yeah, the problem is that he has an inflated ego and he's stupid, which is like a horrible combination to have.
Well, that was the projection of the century. And though maybe that video out of context was a bad look for Tectone, trust me, as we go over the court transcript, not Mizkiv's transcript that his idiot friend wrote, I mean the actual court transcripts. So when we go over the real transcript, you're going to understand why Tectone was a little angry there. In fact, I think he was quite polite. That transcript is infuriating knowing that it was used to take someone's First and Second Amendment rights away for 10 years.
Okay. Listen, I'm not trying to be that guy, but if somebody is a proven abusive piece of shit that is dangerous, I'm not going to feel sorry if he cannot wield a gun for 10 years. And also, you say First Amendment rights? Tectone still has his First Amendment rights. He just can't talk about Pinkchyu in specific because he was absolutely dangerous about her. Guess what? The First Amendment is not limited to just one woman. The First Amendment can be talking about literally anything. You could talk about anything you fucking want that just isn't related to Pinkchyu. It's honestly... To be fair, Tectone shouldn't have even been in that position to begin with by just not being an abusive piece of shit. But, okay, yeah, great.
Anyway, on November 22nd, 2024, 2 days after Pinkchyu makes her allegations, Tectone confirms on Twitter that Pinkchyu was talking about him. He says that she has 2 weeks to apologize and admit that her allegations were false, or he will sue her for what I imagine was defamation, citing that he will also pursue legal action against those who knowingly repeat her lies with reckless disregard for the truth. Tectone goes on to say that he's willing to work with law enforcement and is ready to prove his innocence. And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom at the end. Which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January 23rd of 2026, and a hearing for a protective order filed by Linda Ashley Lamar, that's Pinkchyu, against John Robertson, that's Tectone.
Tectone with his 5 lawyers.
Tectone and his 1 lawyer, that's 1 lawyer, Mizkiff. I don't know why you would lie about something that was so easy to disprove.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, the 5 lawyers, yeah, no, it was obviously 1 lawyer, so, like, Mizkiff is not exactly a good person either. Like, he's also an abusive piece of shit. I think Tectone is worse than Mizkiff, but Mizkiff is still, like, not a good person either.
I'm smart. I'm not going live and saying things that are stupid. I'm not going live and being not strategic with my words and my actions. I'm being smart.
Right. Mizkiff sent a friend of his to go to court and take notes on the day of the hearing. Seems like the information wasn't very accurate. So Tectone's 1 lawyer is Geoffrey Purrier, a guy with an enviable jawline, and Pinkchyu's lawyer is Michelle Locke, an aspiring self-help influencer.
Life is a journey.
Okay. I mean, clearly the self-help was helpful because she clearly deemed Tectone unsafe.
life has ups and downs.
Very insightful words of wisdom. Last, the case is being heard by Judge Dimple Malhotra. Just for clarification, this is a civil case. Conveniently, a lot of these types of allegations seem to be tried in civil courts, probably because the burden of proof there is much lower than in criminal courts.
Yeah, but I would like to think that the burden of proof is still high enough to the point where that is still like a good enough judgment onto whether or not what an action someone did is still bad enough to get there. And if the burden of proof was not as high enough and they still deemed Tectone unsafe enough to wield a firearm for 10 years, and the fact that Pinkchyu was able to get a restraining order on Tectone, I think that still is credible enough to the point that the court, they found something that determined Tectone to be just not safe whatsoever.
I want you to understand something, Chad.
Oh, great. Now we have Mike from PA here as well. What are we going to get? Are we going to get Hassan next as well? Are you just going to show every single far leftist and try to compare them to Tectone and be like, oh, look, Tectone is not as cringe and bad as these people are?
That the judge agreed with that. Now, the judge was not empowered to put him in prison directly because that was not a criminal case. Had it been a criminal case and had he been given a bench trial, he would have gone to prison as a racist right then.
Maybe. I don't know if that's entirely true. That it might be true. I don't know.
These idiots are annoying. For those of you who don't know, Mike from PA is the guy who pretended to be a licensed attorney to run for the Pennsylvania legislature, but the state Supreme Court kicked him off the ballot after they found him misrepresenting himself.
Okay. Maybe this is true, but what does this have to do with Tectone? Like, why are you getting, like, random opinions from, like, fucking far-left streamers and being like, oh, look at that. Ha ha ha. You see, Tectone might be an abusive rapist, but at least he's not cringe.
Now he's
I guess Mike from P is a little more cringe. He's actually, like, legitimately anti-Semitic, but whatever. That's beside the point.
pretending to be an authority on the law on Twitch. Spoilers, most of the law influencers get shit wrong all the time, and they aren't.
What? I don't think Legal Eagle's that bad. I also like, Bruce Rivers. That's another one that I think is kind of okay. I like Legal Eagle better. I think Legal Eagle is probably the best one. Maybe most law tubers are kind of strange. I guess Legal Mindset is like one of the worst ones. Legal Mindset is like the Taylor Lorenz equivalent to what the right-wing hacks are, we'll say, for their job.
Really that trustworthy. Anyway, in reality, there was a police investigation, but it didn't go anywhere, let alone prosecute. So Pinkchyu claimed that she would put a pause on pressing criminal charges because she was afraid of Tectone retaliating, which...
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to read here. Because, like, if I read here, I don't know who's who, so I don't think we can get much out of this.
I don't believe because...
I imagine we'll come back to it later in the video. This is a pretty long video.
Publicly said he would cooperate with the police. And also, if Pinkchyu was actually afraid, she wouldn't have continued to attack Tectone legally. Personally...
I mean, if she was actually afraid... I mean, for that same reason, wouldn't that be the exact reason she would go after somebody legally? Because she's scared that he might do something to her? So she wants to make sure that legally she can get, like, a restraining order or, like, a protective order at least to make sure that, like, he can't harm her anymore, to make sure that she's safe and that she can, like, live her life again.
I think the only reason that a protective order was filed is because she wants to attack him, and there's no way in hell that she would have won a criminal case. Now, just so it's less confusing and because there's no video of this hearing, as we go over the transcript, I'll put pictures on the side of who is talking. That being said, Pinkchyu's lawyer starts her opening statement by blaming Pinkchyu's lack of evidence to corroborate her story on the fact that she's autistic.
Okay, this is the lawyer of Pinkchyu. All right. He will go on rampages about women, etc. And what my client and evidence will show is that since this protective order has been in effect, my client has had peace for the first time since they broke up because he has, for the most part, been retained in what he's allowed to do online. And the concern is based on his own statements and his streamers, and we have the videos judge that if the protective order goes away, that my client's life will turn into a nightmare again. My client is on the spectrum for autism and suffers from some anxiety disorder. Okay, I mean, this is kind of normal for lawyers to do when you think about it. Like, typically what lawyers are going to do is, like, you know, let's just give an example. Let's just say that you jaywalk a street and you get put in, like, a court of law. Typically, you'll get matched with a judge that gets on, like, those minor offenses, which are, like, more misdemeanors. not really felonies. So if you like jaywalk, which wouldn't really, whatever. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like jaywalking is a weak example. I tried to give the weakest example that I could, but jaywalking, you're in a court for that, and like the judge, I get the lawyer is gonna pretty much, I guess the lawyer that would be prosecuting you would be like, oh my god, you jaywalked? No, you tried to block traffic and obstruct traffic out of the way or whatever. They're gonna like try to in a weird way, it's kind of like exaggerating as much as possible. They're gonna try to use the most extreme interpretation. Whereas the defense is going to use the most charitable interpretation you can get from said situation. This is kind of normal for lawyers, is that they try to play as many cards as they can on the table, and usually they'll meet in the middle. Whereas with this abuse case, that's obviously not the case, because the allegations are a lot more severe than just jaywalking on the street, which you wouldn't really be in a court of law for. So I know that I used a weak example, but I tried to use the weakest example that I could to try to prove my point. It's really unfortunate. It's a really unfortunate case. And what is different, or what is difficult about it, it is because both of these parties earn their living from social media and streaming, that any effect that he puts on social media and then the threats, they get back to her. He knows they get back to her, and he knows that it can affect her business. And the court will hear a little bit of details of how the online streaming works and compensation. But it was very much she thought if she left him, that all of her social media and all of her income would go away. But at the end of the day, we're okay, and then it cuts off there.
Pinkchyu's primary argument here is that as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her, because she's very slightly autistic.
Okay, that's all right. I don't know if whatever. Hold on. I'm just gonna read this first because like this. Hold on. I actually do want to address that.
Autistic. Pinkchyu's primary argument here is that as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her, because she's very slightly autistic.
Yeah, that's a fucking idiot interpretation of what we just read. That's not the only reason. It's actually very normal, even for non-autistic people, to not realize that they're in an abusive situation, because like there's still 1% of them that still loves them, right? So you could be in like a very abusive situation, and that person, like, listen, we have to understand there is a difference between toxic and abusive relationships. Abusive relationships, you don't realize that the behavior is normalized until like something clicks, and that could be like a friend telling you. That could be you maybe realizing that the behavior is bad or something. It could be any number of things, right? Pinkchyu obviously was not contributing to her abusive environment. Like, it's pretty clear that it was Tectone that was the sole contributor to it. So, think before you sleep to say that, like, she didn't realize it because she was autistic is a bit of a disingenuous way to fucking like interpret that information based off of what we read, but okay. Some of them. But the ones that you list with specificity in your application for a protective order happened in March of 2024 and then May 28th or 29th of 2024. Yes. Okay, this lawsuit was filed less than a month ago after this last incident of sexual abuse allegedly perpetrated by John on you. Yes. Is that fair? Yes. Okay, but despite that, you are calling the allegation that John was grooming you as a lie. Is that fair? I was not aware that I was being sexually abused at the time. The grooming claim? Where did the grooming claim come from? I mean, here's the thing. Like, grooming is like a heavy accusation. But I don't really... Here's the thing, right? In online culture, there is a lot of victimhood online. There's a lot of victimization in a lot of different echo chambers online. So, MAGA is a good example of it. MAGA is a massive victim complex. And then in the case of, like, people online, especially if it's, like, two kids sexting with each other online, someone could believe that it's, like, they were groomed or something. If somebody else was like, oh my god, this horrible thing happened to you or whatever. You know, when people, like, sometimes people don't realize, like, a lot of people online use words to describe how they feel about a situation. So even if John technically wasn't like grooming her here, like she obviously was being abused and she didn't know what other word to use for the situation. So like I kind of like I sympathize with her on why she felt like that was an appropriate word at the time, even if it wasn't true. Like, I totally get it. I don't really feel like lambasting her for that too much. Like, obviously it's not grooming, but, like, I don't feel like going after her for it, given the severity of what Tectone has done. I was not aware I was being sexually abused at the time. See, again, that makes sense, because, like, you know, you don't realize that something is bad until you're out of it. And, you know, there are a lot of cases, and I think that it's worth mentioning that there are a lot of cases where somebody could, you know, have just, like, a bad relationship with somebody, and then they look back at that relationship and realize that they were, like, fucking raped or something, even though that wasn't the case. Like, that's, like, that happens a lot in, like, online allegations. This one, not so much, because, one, it's not happening offline, or online, it's happening offline, given the, court case that we have here. Like, it actually was, like, a legitimate court case. And, again, I don't think Pinkchyu knew what word to describe it with back then, so she just decided to fill in the blanks and use whatever word she felt described the situation, even if it's not true. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously, and the unfortunate reality is that in a court of law, Tectone's lawyer is going to try to poke holes in her story, and so he's gonna, like, poke holes at her semantics about it. Okay, and can you explain that? I did not, until I confided to a friend after. I knew what was going on was not good, and I didn't know what to call it. Again, that makes sense. It's exactly what I just said. Okay, and that did not happen until after I moved out and confided into somebody. Okay.
But did they take that argument from TikTok? So anyway, you know, if there's...
Okay. I just fucking can't with the way this guy talks. This guy talks like a total fucking... Like, I'm a nasally white nerd. Maybe I'm autistic. I don't fucking know. I understand I convey things very well, but I know I'm not as much of a fucking loser as this guy, the way he conveys things. He just comes across like a total, like... Okay. It's just... This guy's weird.
Like a mountain of evidence.
It's just like so many backhanded comments that are just like so unnecessary.
Showing that this was all consensual. Well, just ignore that, because Pinkchyu changed her mind after the breakup and after Tectone got into a relationship with a different woman.
Didn't this woman also claim that Tectone abused her as well? So it shows that, like, not only was Tectone abusive with Pinkchyu, but he was also abusive with other women as well. So it's like a repeat pattern of behavior. I mean, Tectone has fucking anger problems. Like, he admitted that he, like, takes steroids, and steroids can, like, give you massive problems when it comes to your temper.
What a convenient set of circumstances. That being said, let's go to the first allegation of assault. Pinkchyu said that she had recently gotten breast implants, so this is a plastic surgery related allegation.
Well, that would be... yeah, okay, fine.
Now, I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe.
Why? Hold on. Actually, I'm gonna have to do a lot of reading for this video. So, we'll talk about that in just a second. Sorry, so hang on. You suffer from what? Anxiety, right? Yes. Just to be clear, yeah, so Pinkchyu and her lawyer are talking right now. Okay, and you were also... Is it on the spectrum? Yes. Alright, and when you were taking breaths, you were trying to calm yourself down, is that right? Yes. Okay, so let's talk about what happened. When did you get your breast augmentation? I believe I did it in late 2023, and then I had to get it redone in 2024, earlier in 2024. Alright, in August of 2023, was that the incident you were just talking about that? Yes, it was in May of 2024. Okay, so it was after your revision. This was the revision part that this incident occurred. Okay, so in May of 2024, tell the court what happened.
Surgery-related allegation. Now, I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe, but the...
I guess. Okay, whatever. Okay, so it's still her lawyer talking with her. I was lying in my bed, and my doctor told me that I had to sit up straight. Like, I can't lie down or to the side or anything because I still had stitches and I was still taking heavy medication. And he was getting very unruly, and upset that I couldn't give him blowjobs during my healing period. Okay, so when you said he would get upset and unruly, can you describe for the court what he would actually do? He'd be like... So, can you suck my dick? Or he was just seemed very annoyed, I guess, is a good word for it. Very annoyed. And in this incident, I was lying in my bed. He's like, do you think you could still suck my dick? And I was like, I told you I can't. Like, the doctor said I have to lay up straight, so I'm going to lay up straight. And I'm like, no, not right now. I'm really sorry I can't do that for you, because I felt he made me feel bad about it. What about next? He then grabbed my shoulders and put me over his stomach, and then a bunch of I don't know why you're redacting this information. Like, how, like, YouTube unsafe could it be? Also, not for nothing, I'm sorry, this is weird, because it's like, if there really was something that was unsafe, if there's, like, unsafe words in this, like, excerpt, why don't you just censor, like, the word? Why can't you censor, like, one letter or a couple of letters in that word? If there's, like, a couple of unsafe words that might get you demonetized, why do you have to do the entire... I find that very suspicious. Why do you have to do the entire, like, letter? Hold on. Again, if it really is unsafe for YouTube, just censor the words that might be unsafe. Like, censor out maybe, like, rape or something, or whatever it is. So I don't know why. It feels a little bit... There's something weird about that, but... whatever.
The page numbers are all there, so you can just look it up for yourself. Basically, the allegation was that Pinkchyu could not perform because of her recent surgery.
I did look it up. I swear to God, I tried looking it up and I couldn't find it anywhere.
So Tectone found other non-consensual means, allegedly.
Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that and then probably get traumatized altogether one more time in the court process, but at least...
Yes, so now we have Hassan Parker. So we got Denims, Mike from PA, and Hassan Parker. Wow. Great. We got the trifecta of people being like, oh, God, these guys are much more cringe than Tectone is. Great.
Now you have a...
Really is interesting how the fucking double standards on, like, the right-wing grifters, they just, like, decide to, like, fucking bash these people for being cringe, and same for Pinkchyu for doing OnlyFans. And then they will proceed to let Tectone off the hook, who seems to be a rapist, let's be real. And then they defend, like, pedophilia in the White House for their goat, President Trump. It's very interesting where the double standards are for them.
You have a moment of respite.
To further elaborate on the context here, Pinkchyu testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors.
Hold on. And what was the arrangement that you had before you moved in regards to rent? I would help him with some thumbnails. So in my assumption, it would just be like helping him because I would do graphic design and media. So I make his thumbnails and edited some things for him. So just so the record is clear, what are thumbnails? So when he posts things like YouTube videos, I'd go in Photoshop and create a graphic design for him. Okay. And at some point, did the arrangement for rent changed? It changed after we moved into Chestnut Ridge. Okay, and what changed? It went from, like, make this thumbnail to me to he would keep telling me to suck his dick. And at the time, he would tell me, do your job, you don't pay rent. And those are words that I clearly remember. Okay, and how soon after, and Chestnut was in Austin, Texas, is that right? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, like, here's the thing, like, I don't think it's entirely unheard of to be in a scenario where somebody helps you out to make, like, thumbnails, for example, or helps you to, like, gets you stuff that you need to put yourself out there, I guess, in content creation if you're in a relationship. In exchange for rent, though, it's a little bit odd because, like, that should just be, like, the bare minimum if you're living with your partner. Unless you guys both, like, split the rent or something and she, like, works and does something else. I don't know. It could be any number of arrangements. But, okay. I mean, it just seems a little bit, like... It seems like it escalated, I guess, is how you would put it.
On the context here, Pinkchyu testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors.
That's not what the court document says. It says that it gradually escalated and it started out with thumbnails. Like, did you just like forget to mention that part, or?
Personally, I don't believe this version of the story at all. After reading through the transcript, it is very clear to me that they were living together because they were in a relationship.
Okay. Yeah. At some point... Okay, now we're back to Tectone's lawyer asking questions to Pinkchyu. At some point following that message to John, you entered into a romantic relationship sometime between December of 2022 and, let's say, July of 2024? Yes. At some point, yes. You guys were a couple, is that fair? Yes. Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify because you provided some testimony on direct that the only reason you slept together was because he had a mental health diagnosis where he didn't want to sleep alone. I mean, you guys were a couple, is that fair? Yes. Okay. I just want to clear that up because the implication from that was that you were roommates, but you were only sleeping together because he was scared of the dark or something like that. I mean, you guys were a couple. You slept together in the same bed like couples do. I preferred a lot of times to sleep upstairs, probably because she was scared shitless of him. Makes sense. Okay, have you ever expressed something different in a text message to John? I believe it was over Snapchat. I would tell, and then it cuts off.
For reference, Pinkchyu and Tectone's relationship started in December of 2022, and they broke up around June or July of 2024. About a month later, in July or August, Tectone meets his now fiancée, Sophia, and a few months later, in November, Pinkchyu accuses Tectone of sexual assault. Which brings us to the second allegation. Again, pictures are here to indicate who is in the conversation.
Okay. Alright, so what happened in May of 2024? I just gotten my lips done. They were very swollen and painful. Like, you could still see the injection sites. And he asked me to suck his dick, and I said no, that it would ruin my lip injections because, you know, if you don't let them settle, it will migrate. And he's like, oh, but it's really hot. It's really hot when they're swollen like that. They look all big and fat. And I'm like, I can't because it's going to mess up my face. And then because this happened when we were lying in bed, he then put my face, he made me blank, so that's something sexual, non-consensually. Okay, when you say that he made you, I know this is difficult. Can you describe to the court the actions he took to force you to do so? He grabbed the back of my neck and slowly put it blank and told me to open my mouth and blank. Great. Okay. And he also made public comments about this as well that I believe is in my timeline. Okay, we'll get to the public comments in a minute, but did you end up having issues with your lip filler after this incident? Yes. So because he did that, it did migrate, and I complained to him multiple times after that and then it cuts off.
If you see a Q, though, that means a lawyer is talking, and if you see an A, that's going to be either Tectone or Pinkchyu talking. Anyway, Pinkchyu said that she had just gotten lip filler, and Tectone had forced her into oral sex, which had ruined the lip filler. Geez, another plastic surgery-related incident? Do all of her allegations have some sort of plastic surgery involved?
It's just like, when you make backhanded comments like this, and you make jokes that are obviously, like, they don't land very well like that at all, like, you come across like a massive incel. Like, just saying, oh my god, look, she's an OnlyFans whore, she got plastic surgery, ha 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 ha, look at her. That means she can't be a victim of abuse because they're all related to plastic surgery. So, again, you come across like a massive fucking incel.
Now, is there any corroborating evidence that this happened? Not really. There may have been a doctor's appointment where she had to get the lip filler fixed. However, that doesn't prove anything because she could have just as easily screwed up the filler through regular consensual activity or something else entirely. But these are pretty much the allegations of assault. Now, when I say that Pinkchyu had no evidence of this stuff occurring, understand that her own testimony counts as evidence from a legal standpoint.
It counts as evidence from a legal standpoint, but when you say no evidence, we obviously know you're talking about, like, I guess, like, screenshots or, like, a fucking item or something that would indicate, like, some level of sexual assault that happened, or, like, a recording or something. I don't know. Like, that could be considered, like, evidence that we're used to. She may not have had those, probably because she didn't see what she went through as a form of abuse.
So allow me to clarify what I mean. I'm saying she had no additional evidence to verify the truth of her story.
Sure, okay, but I mean, that makes sense given the context of what happened to her.
And let me point out just how ridiculous this is. Tectone is a guy who is constantly on camera.
There's like a good 8 to 10 people who have already said, he didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. We were there when they said it happened. That never happened. They say there's a third girl. They don't exist. They don't realize that the entirety of, a large portion of my house is fucking filmed on the inside. I have security cameras on the inside. That's how fucking paranoid I am.
This is a guy who...
Wow, it's almost like somebody has a on-stream personality and an off-stream personality. And even if there were recordings of Tectone being legitimately abusive, wouldn't that not be available to the public? If it's a court case, wouldn't that be just for the court specifically, and they can't play that out of court until something has been done? I mean, obviously, this is a civil case, so the burden of proof is not going to be as high, but still.
For multiple hours a day, plus the couple streams that he did with Pinkchyu. You're going to tell me that you have no footage, no audio recordings, and no text that make him look abusive or make him look like a stalker? You also have no testimony from other witnesses saying that Tectone was abusing you? This is despite the fact that there were 2 roommates living with them the entire time. So either Tectone is this master manipulator who can get away with all of this without a trace, which is a weird thing to argue because his opposition is constantly calling him stupid.
When he's literally the dumb. I don't know how anyone fucking ever listened to this guy.
He's dumb as fuck. I honestly think he needs to be arrested just so he can experience what that is like, so he shuts the fuck up and goes away.
So the argument that Think Before You Sleep is unironically using here is Tectone is so stupid he is incapable of being abusive or sexually assaulting somebody. That's the... We have to understand, that is the argument that Think Before You Sleep just gave here. Which is, like, classic fucking victim blaming. Like, it's one thing if you don't believe Pinkchyu or if you don't believe the victim coming forward because they're a liar and stuff, in which case that's not really victim blaming because there's no victim in that situation. But, like, literally, the mentality is that, like, oh, he's too stupid. If your guys are saying he's too stupid to do anything, there's no world where he could be abusive or sexually assault someone. Those two things can't coexist. Like, you just victim blamed. Congratulations. I hope you're happy with yourself.
I genuinely don't understand how someone could...
And we have denims again for some fucking reason.
...be so fucking stupid to think that this is a good response.
So either he is this...
Damn, when you know you're stupid when even denims is calling you stupid.
...master manipulator who can fool anyone, or none of this shit happened, in my opinion. On that note, Pinkchyu's lawyer...
I think 2 things can be true at once. I think Tectone can be incredibly fucking stupid and also know what to do to keep Pinkchyu in an abusive situation.
...has finished questioning her client, so let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey. Before we get into this, though, it requires some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica.
Oh, this is the woman that claimed that Tectone was abusive. Not the one that Tectone is getting married to now, to our knowledge anyway. But this woman, I think her name, or was it Freem? There was another woman Tectone was with named Freem who claimed that he was also very abusive. I don't know. Maybe Tectone said that there was a third girl that doesn't exist, but I guess there's clearly a third girl there. Maybe they thought that the third girl... Maybe he meant, like, the third girl didn't exist in the sense that the third girl didn't claim that there was any abuse that happened. Maybe that's what he meant.
They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere? Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce.
Okay. Pinkchyu and Tectone meet and find connection. Prior to December 2022, Tectone and Pinkchyu had never met. But on the suggestion of a common acquaintance, Jay the Bird, Pinkchyu was urged to reach out to Tectone. On December 15, 2022, in response to Tectone posting about his divorce, Pinkchyu sent a direct message to Tectone on X, formerly Twitter, offering him support. This was the first time that Tectone and Pinkchyu had ever interacted. After that initial contact, Tectone and Pinkchyu quickly struck a friendship and soon realized that they had a lot in common. Eventually, after hanging out continuously over the next couple of days, Tectone and Pinkchyu started a private romantic relationship in December 2022. While married and living with Tectone, Freem installed security cameras around the house that Tectone and Freem were living in. Tectone never had access... Oh, is Freem Jessica's online alias? Is that what it is? Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. I thought Freem was like the real name of Tectone's private ex, not Jessica. Okay. Gotcha. Tectone never had access to the cameras and assumed that Freem removed them when she moved out of the house in September. Unknown to Pinkchyu, Freem and Kurzum recorded Pinkchyu and Tectone on at least 3 separate occasions: December 20th, 2022, December 25th, 2022, and December 29th, 2022. Some of these encounters involved private and intimate moments between Pinkchyu and Tectone. On December 29th, 2022, after an intimate moment between... Okay, it cuts off there.
And allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pinkchyu to blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me. Anyway, a lawsuit was filed.
Oh, is it because it could be considered like revenge porn or something? Maybe. I don't know. Not sure how that fully works in like a court of law. It is, I think it would be illegal, but yeah.
Then a part of this lawsuit included Pinkchyu suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave.
Tectone's sex slave? What the fuck is it? Tectone was caught on camera. Freem called Tectone and asked Tectone, "Is she better than me?" After exposing that Freem and Kurzem had been spying on Tectone and Pinkchyu. Freem intentionally tried to inflict pain on Tectone by exposing that Freem had cheated on Tectone with Kurzem while they were living together. After wrapping up the phone call with Freem, Tectone explained the situation to Pinkchyu and promised that Freem would delete the footage and remove the cameras. Freem starts intentionally lying about Pinkchyu. In January 2023, Pinkchyu attended IkiCon, an anime convention hosted in Austin, Texas. Freem also attended and spread rumors about Tectone and Pinkchyu. Specifically, Freem spread that Pinkchyu was Tectone's new girl. However, the romantic relationship between Tectone and Pinkchyu was in his infancy, and the two had not been placed a public label on it yet, so she leaked it out, basically. As such, Tectone spent the rest of the event trying to clarify these rumors. Despite Tectone trying to tamp down any rumors spread by Freem, the rumor mill started churning at full speed. From January 2023 to August 2023, disgusting lies were spread about Pinkchyu and Tectone. These lies included cheating on Freem with Pinkchyu. Pinkchyu was a homewrecker that broke up the marriage of Freem and Tectone. Pinkchyu had several cosmetic surgeries and was considering more, such as gag reflex surgery, and Tectone was paying for them, and Tectone was grooming Pinkchyu as a sex slave due to her autism. So, okay, did the grooming claim initially start from Freem and it wasn't Pinkchyu? So I guess Pinkchyu got the idea that she was being groomed because someone else told her she was being groomed? Is that what it is? I mean, that would make sense to me considering, like, again, this is a real thing in psychology where if you go to see a therapist, they don't overvalidate or undervalidate any of your trauma, because if they do either of those things, that can be an additional trauma. Like, if you weren't a victim in a situation, or if you get the idea that you were a victim in a situation that you otherwise were not a victim of, and somebody tells you, oh my god, this terrible thing happened to you, that can be an additional trauma when you otherwise wouldn't have had it. So, not saying that this situation is not traumatizing for Pinkchyu, but that could be like a real thing where that's where she like attached this initial grooming label on. Yeah, okay.
Let me repeat this. Pinkchyu sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone. Pinkchyu said it was...
I don't think that's what the document says.
Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave.
Doesn't it say that the rumors were spread by Freem that Pinkchyu was the sex slave? So it's more like a... I mean, don't we like have to remember that this was before any of the abuse occurred? This was in January of 2023.
Let me repeat this. Pinkchyu sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone. Pinkchyu said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim.
Dude, the rumor started in January of 2023. The very beginning of their relationship. This is before any abuse fucking occurred. Of course she's gonna think that it's bullshit at the time. What?
Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after her alleged incidents of abuse, and she says these claims about her from Tectone's ex-wife were disgusting lies.
Yeah, before the fucking abuse, idiot. You literally just told us this. Before the abuse.
What a weird thing to say, right?
What do you mean, it's not weird at all. She didn't think that she was a victim of abuse at the time.
So that's our first counter to Pinkchyu's story.
Not really. It doesn't prove anything.
And just right there, throw the case out. You mean to tell me that someone called her an abuse victim and she spent money suing them to say, no, I'm not?
It was before the abuse happened. Is this guy... Does Think Before You Sleep have a fucking brainworm or something? He literally... You said in your own words, this was before the abuse happened. So, of course, she's going to think at the time of the beginning of their relationship that it's not abusive.
The second part of this is that Pinkchyu went to a mental hospital in July of 2024, around 1 to 2 months after the alleged victimizations.
Okay. Absolutely not. Okay, and so the Austin Oaks, where did you go after? Let me back up a little bit. How long were you in Austin Oaks? 3 days. Okay, And what were your discharge instructions? Just blank. I can't remember what it was, but instead I decided to go ahead and see a therapist. Oh, that's tough. Okay, and did you actually have any acts of, like, did you intentionally self-harm or no? So what was the reason you went? I just needed to get out of my house. I think at the time I was just confused. Like, I knew something in my gut was wrong, like how I was being treated, but, you know, he was telling me otherwise. And I was just confused, and I called my sister. I said, I just need to get out. I just need to see somebody. I need to get out of this place. I calmly packed up my clothes, told my roommate, hey, I'm going to be leaving. I'm not feeling good. And then my sister drove me. I went there. They said, hey, there's nothing we can really do for you. You're fine. But if you want, you can admit yourself to get evaluated.
When she's being questioned by her
That makes sense.
lawyer, she states that she went to the hospital because she just had to get out of the house. And if your first thought was, that makes no sense, then I would agree with you.
Why would she tell them that she needs to go for a psychic evaluation? Or sorry, it's psychic evaluation. What the fuck? It's psychic evaluation. Yeah, she's getting a tarot reading, guys. Great. Psychiatric evaluation or like seeing a therapist. Why would she tell somebody that? Like, your mental health is like a very personal thing to you. You know, like, I try to be very fucking private about my mental health because I don't like it being out there. It doesn't feel great to have my mental health out into the public. So, obviously that's going to be like a very personal thing for her. It makes sense that she wouldn't be forthcoming when it comes to that because it's personal.
This sounds like a lie. Now, I'm not a fan of illumation, but I do...
Okay. I think you're a little bit dense if you can't understand that fact, but okay.
I think she has a very insightful video on mental hospitals.
How many times has Think Before You Sleep talked about illumation, by the way? Isn't it like a reoccurring thing that like Think Before You Sleep like has this like weird animation YouTuber on his like fucking stream like videos or something?
People don't go to mental hospitals just because they wanted to get out of the house. They go because they're either a danger to others or they're afraid of harming themselves.
Maybe she was afraid of hurting herself, or maybe she didn't know what to do and she thought she was gonna fucking spiral. I don't know.
Facilities like this save lives every day. There are two types of admission. The first is voluntary, which is where you go to the emergency room and say, hi, I don't feel safe. Can you please help me? And the second is involuntary, which is where your doctor or psychiatrist feels you're at grave risk to yourself or others. So they write you a note and send you to the hospital.
So it's a weird downplay from Pinkchyu to say that she just needed to get out of the house.
I don't think it's a weird downplay at all. She just doesn't want to be, like, public, or she doesn't want to be forthcoming when it comes to her mental health. It's a personal thing for her.
If she wanted to do that, she could have just checked herself into a hotel or something.
Okay, dude. Fucking Christ, this guy is so fucking unbelievably stupid. Jesus Christ.
Note that Pinkchyu has more than enough money to do this. Also note that this admission into a mental hospital seems to have happened directly after Tectone broke up with her.
Okay, makes sense. First of all, if that's true, that would make sense because it was probably a very traumatizing relationship. Be accurate to the answers you provided. Is that fair? To the best of my knowledge. And for instance, they asked you about your history and your present illness on page 15, and you indicated that you, quote, blank, when I'm in high stress situations. Okay, and then you go on to say that was the reason you believe John broke up with you? No, I don't, the first time that wasn't, I don't believe that was the reason the first time. Okay. I broke up. Are you talking about me the time where we like mutually talked or are you talking about the time that I broke up with him? In the medical records, you described it blank. And that's why you believe John broke up with you because blank. Do you mind telling me what page this was on? Sure, that's on page 15. I don't see that. I just see blank. And that's how you, in those medical records, and then it cuts off.
So I'm guessing that the breakup caused thoughts of self-harm. Actually, it looks like the redactions here suggest something a little bit worse than self-harm.
Okay. I don't know why you don't... I really fail to understand why you don't just, like, unredact some of the information and then censor out like the more like I guess important parts, like the like words that might get you demonetized, because that was your original reasoning. Okay, and again, you went into detail that you get blank. Do you get blank? I mean, anyone who is getting abused gets pretty blank. Okay, do you blank? I haven't in the past year since I been out of this situation. Okay, but at the time you were. Not in front of anyone. It was more by myself. So if it was by yourself, then why did you think why at the time in July of 2024 did you believe that was the reason John broke up with you? I believe they probably miswrote when I was explaining to them because I was probably crying and stuff. Oh, okay. Okay. But the quotation mark there, you think that they maybe mischaracterized what you've told them? I think they may have, and then it cuts out. Okay, I mean, it sounds to me like Pinkchyu probably self-harms, and she probably did that to cope with her emotions, thinking that there was nothing wrong with the relationship, but then she realized that there was something wrong with the relationship. She obviously has a lot of mental health issues as a result of feeling trapped in whatever she's in, so that sucks, and it's horrible, obviously.
So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychologically healthy thing to do.
Maybe, but I mean, they said that she was fine when she got evaluated, so wouldn't that, I don't know, maybe something happened, maybe she did get reevaluated, I don't know.
However, the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse. Let me start
okay, I guess you'll explain how.
By saying that when she's being questioned by her lawyer, Pinkchyu said that after she got back from Austin Oaks, the mental hospital, she moved in with her mom, but as she was getting her stuff from Tectone's house, she told a roommate of his about how afraid she was of Tectone.
Okay. Okay, so did you self-admit? Yes. And when you were discharged or left Austin Oaks, did you get back into the same residence with Mr. Robertson, which is Tectone? No. Okay. Where'd you go after that? I went to my mom's. I did go to his house and collect items that when he wasn't there, and that's when I confided in at the time, his roommate, that I guessed that was going to be moving in. I said, I'm afraid of him. I'm really scared. I'm going to go ahead and stay at my mom's because I can't be here. And you heard opposing counsel indicate in opening that you didn't make any reference to Mr. Robertson being abusive when you went to Austin Oaks. Do you recall him saying that? I'm sorry, I'll rephrase. Do you recall opposing counsel in his opening statements making comments that you didn't mention anything wrong about Mr. Robertson when you were at Austin Oaks? Yes, I remember.
Now, anytime you go to the hospital or see a doctor, they're going to ask you, why are you here? Surely if Tectone was so abusive that she just had to get out of the house, and she had to tell his roommate how afraid she was, she would have also told the doctors, well, you see, I have this really abusive ex-boyfriend. But she didn't do that.
I don't really think that's how trauma works. You don't just openly share that information just willy-nilly and being like, oh, hey, I was just abusive and all that stuff. It's just a thing that happened to me. That's just not really how trauma works, but okay, dude.
In fact, the doctors specifically asked her if she had been a victim of abuse.
Okay. God, why is there so much redacted information in this? I honest to God don't think you need to redact this much information. And they go on to ask your entire history of sexual victimization again, not just sexual assault, not a criminal offense, but any sexual victimization at all over your lifetime. And you say blank. But you clarify and explain that blank. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Would you agree with me that at no point in this question do you mention any intimate interaction that you had with John, or that you didn't discuss anything related to John? Is that correct? No, I did not. I mean, I feel like if anything, this just proves her point even more, that she obviously has some level of trauma that she's not comfortable sharing. I feel like if anything, this corroborates that even further. Okay, and you understand at the time that you needed to be honest, complete and accurate in information and answers that you were providing. To the best of my current knowledge. Okay, I think we read this part we read already.
Pinkchyu says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions a prior non-Tectone relationship, and that's it.
I mean, I feel like it's some level of childhood trauma that she had. I feel like that was the original reference. Were you in 6 years prior to Austin Oaks? I was a child. Okay. Do you discuss your relationship sexual abuse in this answer? You mean with John? Wait, I'm sorry, I'm confused. I mean, any adult sexual victimization. Do you discuss that in this answer? No, I don't believe I did. Okay. Did you mention any sexual abuse in this answer at John's hands? I believe I only put it blank in there. okay, at any point in any of these records do you discuss, according to your testimony, these multiple vicious, brutal, sexual, coerced sexual encounters that you had with John? No. Okay, and again, this was just 2 months after the last alleged brutal oral sexual victimization that you had experienced, and before I had confided and got clarification on what's going on. Okay, but you had been through sexual abuse before. Is that fair? You were familiar, unfortunately, with what that looks like.
Keep in mind that the time period where she is alleging the abuse happened was 1 or 2 months before she goes to the mental hospital in July. Also keep in mind that Pinkchyu testified that she told Tectone's roommate 3
when did you we already read this.
or so days after this questioning from the mental hospital, or around the same time, that she was afraid of Tectone, noting that his roommate did not come in to testify on her behalf. She can't even get that corroborated. So I don't see how this can be
I mean, I don't know. There's any number of reasons why she may not have been able to come in.
considered
I don't think that necessarily, like, disproves her, like, case.
as anything other than crucial evidence that Pinkchyu is making all of these allegations up.
Did it ever occur to you that maybe you're so desperate to suck Tectone's dick that you just want to sweep for him? Maybe that's what this is. I don't know. I mean, that's obviously what this is. But I feel like that's just a little food for thought.
Now, her argument
Just a humble opinion. That's all.
for why she didn't report to the mental hospital that she had been assaulted by Tectone is because she just didn't see it that way at the time. But again, immediately after she gets out of the hospital to collect her stuff, she tells Tectone's roommate about how scared she is. Conveniently, this change of story happens in a place where it couldn't be documented as evidence. Because, you know, if you were an abuse victim who is fleeing your house because you're afraid of your ex-boyfriend, certainly you would want to tell medical staff later so it could be used as evidence in a police investigation. This is why I don't believe anything that Pinkchyu says. There are tons of holes in her story and really nothing to defend her outside of taking her word for it.
I just don't think you have, like, a good understanding of how abuse works and how, like, trauma works. It sounds, Think Before You Sleep just sounds like an extremely terminally online person that's never been through any meaningful struggle in his life, and he's always been able to make content without any person, like, doing anything bad to him. And so I don't think he has any level of real trauma in his life whatsoever. So I feel like he just doesn't understand how these things works.
But that's not all.
But also because, like, Pinkchyu is an OnlyFans girl, so she's probably going to just be like, oh, look, she's an OnlyFans girl. OnlyFans bad.
Before Pinkchyu goes to the mental hospital, there are text messages between her and Tectone, where Tectone, or John, says, "Text me when you're on your way, and please be safe."
Okay. I mean, just because Tectone says, text me when you're there and be safe, just because he says those things doesn't necessarily mean he actually cares about her safety. He could just be doing that just to fucking know where she is at all times, so she doesn't do anything he doesn't want her to do. That's probably what it is, more than anything.
And then she tells him what hospital she's going to be at. He also says, "If you need me, just text me. I'm sorry you're going through this."
That doesn't necessarily prove that, like, Tectone is trying to be there for her.
So when I read stuff like that, I think, wow, there was so much documented evidence of Tectone being supportive, but
that doesn't prove that he's being supportive, just to be clear.
But when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it. Isn't that odd?
Oh my fucking god, I hate the way that this guy talks. It's just so cringe. This guy is, like, so snarky with the way that he fucking talks. He's just like, oh, just because somebody goes through an abuse, now we have to rely on testimony. Yeah, that's how abuse allegations works. Very rarely will you have women recording the abuse that happens to them. I don't know if I feel like that's commonsensical. I feel like most people understand that. Now, I understand you can't just accuse anybody of abuse without any, like, level of evidence. But the court deemed Pinkchyu truthful enough to get a protective order on him and to make sure that he can't own a firearm for 10 years.
Supportive, but when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it. Isn't that odd? This is like no case of abuse that I've ever seen.
Okay, if you say so. Fucking idiot. Jesus Christ, I just hate the way that this guy talks.
Abusive people usually leave evidence everywhere because they can't help themselves.
What? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, yes, there are stupid people that leave evidence behind, but, like, if there are smart, calculated abusers, they get away with it for decades. Look at Larry Nassar. He was able to get away with it for decades because he was deviously smart. Sadly, he was extraordinarily smart and extremely manipulative. This is the dumbest fucking victim-blaming logic I've ever heard in my whole life.
We're not done yet. Pinkchyu and Tectone's lawyer Joffrey discuss her leaving the mental hospital, and there's this part where Joffrey said...
It's Jeffrey, by the way. I know you can't see that it's spelled Jeffrey, but it's pronounced Jeffrey. It was very different. It was full-blown, you crying, pulling your pants down, raping you. And, like, that is very different. So it's interesting. I want to just say, can I just point out that, like, Think Before You Sleep won't censor, like, raping, which could be a demonetizing word. He won't censor that, but he censors, like, whole-ass fucking sentences that could be, like, for YouTube TOS reasons. He censors that for some reason. Okay, I guess. And, like, that is very different. I understand, like, what rape is. I didn't fully understand, like, sexual assault. Okay, I want to pivot, and I want to ask you about how so you're released from Austin Oaks, is that correct? May I have a moment? I'm sorry. Okay, my apologies. You're released from Austin Oaks, and you and John continue communicating. In fact, I believe he is listed blank. Yes. Yes, you listed him as that. Yes, because that's where I was living at the time. Okay, and you send John in your patient access code so that he can call up Austin Oaks so that he can find out more interesting information. Is that fair? I don't remember if I did that. Okay, if that's in those text messages, would you have any reason to disagree with that? No.
In fact, I believe he's listed, and the rest is blacked out. Judging by the context clues, I'm guessing that he's saying that Tectone was listed as an emergency contact, considering that Tectone says stuff like, if you need anything, let me know.
I mean, it makes sense in, like, an abusive relationship. You still, like, love the person because, you know that, like, what they're doing is wrong, but there's a small part of you that's like, yeah, that person can change. That's not who they are normally. That's not who the entire person is. Like, abuse dynamics are very complicated.
And Pinkchyu told him what hospital she was going to be at. So again, extremely weird behavior here, especially considering that Pinkchyu communicates that her mom lives somewhere in the area. So why is she using her alleged abuser that she's afraid of as a contact instead of her mom? Moving on, let's talk about why a protection order was granted. In Texas, in order to get a protection order, the standard of proof is reasonable to believe.
Yeah, and it seems like the court found it reasonable to believe that Tectone is a unsafe person. I mean, look, the fines are for a protective order. That family violence occurred. Therefore, the court grants application to a protective order against the respondent. Finds that family violence occurred because the protective order. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to read all of this. You guys could pause and if you can even see it on the screen, because I know I minimize my videos. But you can look up what it takes to get a protective order. It's not an easy thing to do, and Tectone was able to check all the boxes.
This is kind of a major issue for me when it comes to family court, and I think the law around this needs to be modified to prevent abuse, especially in cases like Tectone's where there is tons of counter evidence to his accuser's story.
Not that you've shown us so far. You haven't given us any reasonable evidence or any reasonable points as to how Pinkchyu could potentially be lying or exaggerating her story. Does not seem to be the case.
Reasonable to believe is a very low standard. It's like saying if one person thinks, yeah, that could have happened, that's enough to grant an order in Texas.
That's definitely not how that works, but okay, if you say so.
This standard is even lower than the more likely than not to have happened standard, which is what we're all used to hearing about in civil court cases.
This is in Texas. I want to say this again. This is not California. This is not New York. This is not Illinois. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas.
I really don't understand why you insist on like playing clips from like all these far left streamers. It's very online. Like, Think Before You Sleep is, like, extremely fucking online. Like, and just by the way he talks, just by the way he engages with all of this, it's very online behavior.
He's implying that it's impossible to get an order of protection in Texas, when actually it seems to be fairly easy. Here's Michelle Locke, Pinkchyu's lawyer, on her podcast, saying that the standard of proof in these kinds of courts is very low.
When it comes to marriage and there are abusive instances, how important is it for someone to have that documented?
Your testimony alone can be enough. And people think, well, really? I don't have to have pictures or bruises? I mean, While those things would be great and helpful, it's not a requirement because judges every day make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses.
Yeah. What you just played us means that the judge made a decision based on the credibility of Pinkchyu, and it seems like Pinkchyu had a lot of credibility to deem Tectone unsafe. There you go. You literally just played a clip that disproves your entire point. Think before you sleep. Holy shit. You literally just disproved your own fucking point in your own video. I love it, dude.
And that's the bottom
That's how very stupid he is, clearly.
line. And so the court's going to look at what you say, what he or she says, and then make the call on whether it's a believable story.
Let me remind you that Mike from PA is not a lawyer. He's an idiot propagandist who really seems to have his own boundary issues with women.
He is an idiot, so why are you fucking playing clips of him? Like, who cares about what he thinks?
Just because guns are more legal in Texas doesn't mean that this state always favors the right. A lot of bullshit occurs in Texas, too. Also, this legal battle between Pinkchyu and Tectone occurred in Travis County, which is where Austin is. Austin is like the California of Texas. But anyway, Pinkchyu still has to prove that there is some sort of reason to believe that Tectone will be a danger to her. Before we go into this next section, I would like to point out that neither Michelle Locke or the judge really have a grasp over how social media works. Pinkchyu's lawyer Michelle said in the transcripts that she doesn't really understand social media, and in this video that
You don't need to understand social media. I mean, like, it's fine to not understand social media to understand the abuse dynamic that was occurring between Tectone and Pinkchyu. Like, it doesn't matter if they are not as savvy with it. Like, they can try to understand parts of it, but they don't need to understand every single bit of social media to know that Tectone can still be abusive, considering the fact that most of the abuse would occur in, you guessed it, real life.
found of the judge, she openly states that she doesn't really have an interest in being online.
And so, for me, I didn't even have social media, by the way, until I knew that I had to run.
Okay.
Guys, this whole court case is invalid because the fucking attorneys and the judge are not terminally online enough. Imagine that.
So this is very important because essentially all of Pinkchyu's evidence for why she needs an order of protection and why Tectone is an ongoing threat is because of his social media posts. And if you as a judge don't understand social media, you're going to miss a ton of nuance. It's actually...
Okay. Oh, wow. So when Think Before You Sleep talks about trans people, because he's talked about trans people in the past, and he's gotten, like, very triggered at trans people, but that's because he jerks off to trans people behind closed doors. When Think Before You Sleep talks about trans people, there's no nuance regarding trans issues. When Think Before You Sleep talks about credible rape and abuse accusations from Tectone, suddenly now there's nuance. You guys notice that? I feel like that's very intentional. You know, like, it seems like Think Before You Sleep is very selective when it comes to the nuance that he wants to apply.
To the point where this court decision is quite scary and possibly a strong violation of the First Amendment. Personally, I think Pinkchyu is taking advantage of the judge's lack of knowledge of social media and using that to lie. To talk about that, let's go to Exhibit 16, I think. This post from Tectone is still live, so I'll just show the actual tweet. It says, "Another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on.
Oh, sounds like he's projecting very much, so...
No damage done to them. Ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common?" This is from October 21st of 20...
Yeah, he's massively projecting here, obviously.
25. Nearly a year after Tectone was accused, and he's signal boosting a post talking about a friend of his from OTK, who I guess was falsely accused. I don't know that situation too well, but that's what's being talked about. Pinkchyu says that she believes that the tweet was about her, and then she says that Tectone makes posts like this to try to get his fans to attack her because she does OnlyFans.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, Tectone's audience are a bunch of incels, and Tectone's audience is very adjacent to Asmongold's audience, and Asmongold is, like, the fucking, like, mascot of incels, if you really think about it. Like, at every opportunity, Asmongold calls women bitches, and he doesn't use bitch in the context of, like, oh, wow, this person is just a bad person and she's being a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of bitchy. He uses it, like, with the intention of her being a woman, and therefore he uses that to, like, degrade her, basically. That's, like, the kind of context that Asmongold uses it in. every single opportunity. There was even like a clip going around of Asmongold playing a video game. Was it like Ghost of Yotei? I don't remember. And there was like a child character, a child girl, and he was constantly calling her a bitch. And I'm like, Asmongold, that's a child. Like, what are you on about? Anyway, I guess we'll read this as well. They're going to hate what I found today. Your loss is even more inevitable. Now I wait. Okay. And when you see those messages that he posts like this, how did you interpret them? Like, how did that make you feel? Like he's coming after me. I mean, that given what she's going through, it makes sense she would feel that way. Okay, then let's go to 16. So on the same month, October of 2025, so shortly after the protective order was filed, what does Tectone Mr. Robertson post again about this? Another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on. No damage done to them. Ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common? I guess this is what Tectone was projecting in his original response, being like, I tweet way too much on Twitter. I guess that's exactly what it is. And did you believe that this, what was also related to you in a way? Yes. Okay, why did you believe so? Because he's projecting. He's projecting how he feels about Pinkchyu doing, like, OnlyFans. What he does is he basically trains his community into hating OnlyFans or women or migrants and things like that. I'm half Mexican. And just things to hate about women and women that have OnlyFans. So when he attacks me, they're more angry towards me. That makes sense. I mean, like I said, his audience is full of incels. And, like, again, Tectone has constantly called OnlyFans women whores, and he, like, constantly rage baits for attention, and then he gets upset when people call him out for said rage baiting. Like, he's had a history of doing that constantly. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, Tectone's audience is not going to be the best when it comes to women, clearly.
Which is retarded, because if you look at the comments on the tweet, you can see that people aren't talking about Pinkchyu. You can't even find her name by doing a text search on the page.
Wow, amazing logic. Wow, people in the comments section didn't realize he was talking about Pinkchyu, therefore the post was not talking about Pinkchyu. Amazing logic. Think before you say. Thank you. Wow. Holy shit. Thanks. Wow. As if that fucking suddenly that disproves Tectone was not projecting his own story onto that tweet. Wow. Great logic there, my guy.
In fact, you can't see this in the court transcript, but since this tweet is still live, we know who Tectone is referring to in this tweet because he's quote tweeted a post talking about Azalea Alexi. So how in the hell is this?
Yeah, as if he wasn't projecting his own story, which caused him to tweet this thing, which, I don't know if Think Before You Sleep is, like, just dumb or he is dishonest intentionally, and he's, like, being intentionally dense about it. I don't know. Which one is it?
Comment about Pinkchyu.
I honestly, I don't even think, like, Think Before You Sleep is being dishonest. I don't think he's, like, lying about anything. I think he's just, I genuinely think he's just a really stupid person. Genuinely.
By the way, this is in stark difference to her allegation post, where the top comment essentially is saying, hey, you're talking about Tectone, right? The irony here is that Pinkchyu herself made the argument in court that people wouldn't know who she's talking about because Tectone's name wasn't mentioned in her tweet. But if you know anything about the internet, the minute you start vague posting like this, tons of people in the comments are going to start asking, oh my god, who is she talking about? Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact, here's me doing this with the false allegations against Turkey Tom. You can see that I don't mention Tom in the post. People are asking who I'm talking about, and if you scroll through the comments, you can see several people explaining the reference.
Okay. I mean, just because some people picked up on the reference that you were talking about at the time of it happening doesn't mean that people would pick up on Tectone referencing his ex-girlfriend. Not everybody may pick up on that, especially considering the fact that if you go back on the tweet, Tectone tweeted like a year after he was accused. So not everybody is going to be able to pick up on that sort of thing. Also, the Turkey Tom allegations are not nearly as comparable to what Tectone's allegations are. Like, I knew that the Turkey Tom allegations were kind of stupid when they first came out. I'm not gonna lie. The only thing that would matter the most is if, like, he actually non-consensually recorded a girl. That would be, like, the only thing that, like, really mattered to me. But he obviously didn't do that, and the rest of the allegations were kind of silly, so I just didn't really... It wasn't really that big of a deal, honestly.
This is not like a secret behavior that people have. Anytime some sort of inside joke or a test question is posted on social media, tons of people go to the comments section looking for the person who will explain everything. So in my opinion, Pinkchyu left Tectone's name out of this post to prevent a defamation lawsuit, but left in enough clues for people to easily figure out who she was talking about, so her followers would say who it was for her.
I mean, that makes sense. I feel like Pinkchyu wouldn't want to get herself in a defamation lawsuit against Tectone, considering the fact that she's already been through a lot as is.
If she only wanted her friends to know about these allegations like she said in court, she wouldn't have posted it on social media. Anyway, back to Tectone. Here's where it gets...
Maybe she felt like she would be fulfilled, or maybe that it would be, I guess, like healing to some capacity if she came forward with it online, which I disagree with, by the way. Like, if you have, like, a legitimate fucking trauma, or you went through, like, a legitimately horrific thing, you should probably try your best to deal with it offline. Like, coming forward on, like, in the online atmosphere, anyways, about your trauma can be an additional trauma, especially when there's people that overvalidate and undervalidate your feelings, as I mentioned earlier in this video. If there's any form of abuse or actual child abuse or anything like that, you need to go to the police. Like, first and foremost, go to the police. I know it's not perfect. I know our system is especially fucked up now given the state of this country, but it's certainly a better avenue than going to the fucking internet about it.
Scary. Remember that the order of protection was granted.
Not that I'm blaming, by the way, I'm not blaming Pinkchyu, by the way, just to be clear. Like, I think that, like, she's a lot more on the right in the situation, obviously, but it's just, like, a general thing.
Meaning that Tectone is not allowed to talk about Pinkchyu. Her evidence that this tweet was about her was purely on the basis of Tectone bringing up OnlyFans, and because she does OnlyFans.
Well, yeah, again, Tectone's obviously projecting his own experience onto this tweet. It's pretty obvious to anybody who reads this and understands his history.
She actually makes this argument several times. Here's another one, Exhibit 20. This tweet is also still alive, so I'll just bring it up. He's asking for OnlyFans models to stop giving life advice because you can see them naked for less than a Fortnite battle pass.
Damn, it really does seem like Tectone just hates OnlyFans women because he's projecting the fucking hatred or the awful relationship he had with Pinkchyu. Honestly, you know damn well Tectone still fucking hate goons to Pinkchyu. You know he, like, still is, like, stroking that meat in a very fucking angry way to his ex.
Where's her dignity? Oh, I don't know. I heard she's selling it for $5.
This is another post.
Oh, got him.
Where if you scroll down, you can see that nobody...
It's very interesting for somebody like Asmongold to be like, oh, these OnlyFans women sell their dignity for $5 as an OnlyFans whore or whatever. Meanwhile, you have Asmongold who let his fucking teeth rot out of his skull, and he just sits in his fucking room all day, and he's, like, super terminally online. He drinks like 2 Cokes every single fucking day. He doesn't take showers more than, like, 9 times per year. He's like an absolute... Like, Asmongold has fat energy. He may not be a fat person, but he has fat energy. Like, he has all the energy of a fat person that just sits and plays World of Warcraft all day.
He is talking about Pinkchyu, yet she is suggesting that these posts are targeted at her and designed to train Tectone's audience into hating her. Now, if you were a judge who doesn't use social media that much, you would think, oh, well, that makes sense. Obviously, he's only mentioning OnlyFans because Pinkchyu does OnlyFans. Why would anybody else talk about that? Except, talking about OnlyFans girls is an entire meta of content creation that has existed for years. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with people like Morgpie trying to bend Twitch's rules so she can show her boobs to 13-year-olds and try to get them addicted to pornography.
Okay. I mean, like, Morgpie obviously is kind of out there, but she can't exactly regulate every single person that, like, watches her audience. Neither can Pinkchyu, neither can anybody. Like, obviously you can do your best to put 18+ warnings on all your shit to make sure that kids are not watching it. But obviously, like, they can't control everybody that watches their audience. That's not really on them. If they're doing as much due diligence as they can, that's all they can do when they're doing this kind of content.
Maybe some of these women deserve to be criticized, so citing these posts as threats and possibly suggesting that Tectone can never talk about OnlyFans because of the order of protection, I think is a massive violation of the First Amendment.
Okay. No, that's definitely not how that works, but sure.
Second, in the same way that she cites these posts about OF, she also cites Tectone talking about illegal aliens as a threat towards her.
It might be. I mean, she's a Latina, so yeah, it would obviously be a threat. I mean, Tectone runs constant defense for ICE, and he runs constant defense for Donald Trump, so it makes sense that Tectone would be threatening to Pinkchyu because obviously, like, she would be considered a minority. We've already read this.
Saying, well, I'm half Mexican, so I'm almost a minority, and that means he's victim.
You would be a minority. Even if she's white, like, white Mexicans can exist. Like, she would still be considered a minority, despite not being brown, I guess, is your argument. Okay.
Victimizing me with these posts. If this type of post counts as talking about Pinkchyu, then Tectone, as a social media influencer, can't talk about the most pressing issues of the past year because his ex-girlfriend is half Mexican? This is very stupid. She continues, and I think this is the most ridiculous part, and I think it's where she takes the most advantage of the judge's ignorance of social media.
All right. You say this as if she's like a super calculated, manipulative person. Have you seen him do it to multiple people? Enviosity was one example. He has a lot of, I guess, beef with a lot of people. I can't even count. In his YouTube videos, he names each of his YouTube videos after the person he's going after in that video. I mean, she's just trying to explain it to somebody that doesn't understand social media. It doesn't sound like she's taking advantage of their ignorance on social media. And what is your concern with regards to what happens if this protective order is not granted after hearing today? He is going to continue, as he's shown before, relentlessly harassing and threatening me to the point where I will probably have to take measures where my life may be in danger. A17, he posts in October of 2021. What does he post? Proud to be blocked, Proud to be blocked women who falsely accuse men are scum and should be in prison. Are you falsely accusing him of these actions? Absolutely not. Okay, did they in fact take place? Yes. A19, what did Mr. Robertson say? And this was actually before the protective order was filed on June 18th of 2025.
She says that Tectone makes call-out videos on certain influencers. These kinds of videos, by the way, are extremely common on YouTube. I mean, this reads like she's suggesting that YouTube drama should be illegal.
That's not at all what is being said here, you fucking moron. She's just trying to explain it to people who are not terminally online. And Tectone just happens to fall under it. Why the fuck would she bring up other YouTubers, that being like a common reoccurrence in the heat of the moment, in like when she's just trying to engage with the question that they're asking? Why would she bring up that context? She's just trying to explain it to non-terminally online people. She's not saying that it should be illegal at all. Jesus, holy fuck, this guy is so dumb.
She says here that if a protective order isn't granted, then he will continue relentlessly harassing and threatening her to the point where her life will be in danger.
Probably.
This is absolutely ridiculous. Over the past handful of days,
Bro, I swear to God, like, fucking, like, Think Before You Sleep could witness, like, Andrew Tate being, like, a sex trafficking, grooming rapist, and he'll find a way to make an excuse for it. He'll be like, this is ridiculous. You know, the women are not red-pilled enough or whatever. They just don't understand Andrew Tate. That's the kind of person that Think Before You Sleep is.
Tectone and Miskiff have made like 18 videos on each other. By her logic, you would think that both of them would have been dead 10 times over by now. Keep in mind that between the breakup in July and the time that Pinkchyu made her allegations on November 20th, 2024, I can't find a single instance where Pinkchyu's name is mentioned by Tectone, and she certainly doesn't provide any mentions outside of his post on November 22nd. And keep the context here in mind. Tectone and Pinkchyu break up. Tectone is silent about Pinkchyu until she accuses him of assault. Then Tectone makes a post saying, "I'm going to sue you if you don't apologize." In this context, he's just defending himself. Like he is being legally punished here for defending himself against allegations that had no corroborating evidence.
I mean, if anything, that just sounds like he's making a threat to silence her and defame her, probably because he has more money than she does at the time. I guess now she probably makes a lot of money from her OnlyFans because she is pretty popular now, but still.
I think this is the main reason why Tectone has become so extreme. And whenever you think about it, really calling somebody a rapist is one of like the top 3 things that you can say to somebody that is career destroying, career ending, or
apparently not according to MAGA, because like Tectone was credibly accused of rape and he's still has a career. And Donald Trump is being called a pedophile. That's like one of the worst things you can get accused of. And there's still a lot of people, including Asmongold, by the way, that are willing to run defense for it. Same for Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes says that, 15 and 16, technically not pedophilia. And there was like an undertone of Nick basically dog whistling that what Jeffrey Epstein did to them was totally okay. First of all, not true, because Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking kids as young as babies. So he was doing weird shit with babies. If you've read the Epstein files, you will come to that conclusion. And as well as 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. We don't need to get into the Epstein files. It's bad. It's bad. It's very, very bad stuff. I guess Asmongold doesn't care too much about that, though, when Donald Trump is potentially on the predator list. So, yeah. Amazing virtue signal, Asmongold. Thank you so much.
Damaging.
Right, that's a career-ending allegation. And during the court case, Tectone said that he was dropped from his partnership with OTK almost.
Also, I am not in as high quality as I should be. That is my bad. Oops, I don't know how that happened.
Almost immediately after Pinkchyu's allegations. By the way, if you're thinking she must be the innocent party because she filed for the protective order.
Also, I need to go back and read this. Sorry, I was in bad quality and I didn't read it before. Okay, were you made aware of? Yes. That tweet at some point. Yes. So Tectone is answering questions from his lawyer. Okay. Very quickly after the posting. How quickly? Almost instantly. Okay. So that tweet was on November 20th, 2024. Did you find out about it on November 20th, 2024? Yeah, I saw it after it was posted and it was a lot to take in. And then, yeah, that is when I found out about it, or at least when I saw it. Okay. Did you start receiving messages online about that tweet? Within 3 hours, the heads of my company told me that I'm going to, and then Mrs. Locke, objection to hearsay. The court sustained. John, listen to the question I'm asking. Sorry. That day, did you receive messages? Yes.
By the way, if you're thinking she must...
So that's Tectone trying to go off on a tangent, like lawyers... typically they will be like, this is just speculation, that's hearsay, like we can't answer questions pertaining to the question. Basically, there's not really much else there that we can take away from that. It sounds to me like Tectone found out about the tweet instantly. I am curious though, if you were long broken up with Pinkchyu at that point, why are you still how did you know about it instantly if you weren't following each other? Were you checking on her Twitter every single minute, every single second of the day?
The innocent party because she filed for the protective order. Note that protective orders get abused actually quite a lot.
Does that make it okay?
In fact, if you watched my video on Alexa Nicholas, who was falsely accused of leaking sealed court documents by a good friend of Taylor Lorenz, you would know that she mentioned that she had a stalker who was harassing her and her family. That stalker filed a restraining order against her. So yes, these orders can be weaponized. And speaking of that...
I don't know much details about the Alexa Nicholas stuff. I know who Alexa Nicholas is. She's, a huge advocate of, survivors of sexual assault and stuff. And, the fucking, whatchamacallit? She was, a survivor of the really horrific, work environment of Nickelodeon. So, that's what she, spends a lot of her time doing now. And she speaks up against it. So... I mean, hey, I think that's a good thing because it seems to me like a lot of the work environments on Nickelodeon were very, quite frankly, abusive. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that. But I don't know anything about this whole protective order situation that she got herself into. I would need to know more about it.
Here's the fun part. I think this was all a coordinated effort against Tectone from multiple streamers. Let's move on to another stupid argument that Pinkchyu makes that you would only think is valid if you didn't understand social media. On page 144, Pinkchyu says that Tectone destroyed her streaming career when he made his post on November 22nd.
Okay. Yes, you heard that in that video on November 21st, 2024, or I'm sorry, November 22nd, 2024, that he said, it's war now? Yes. Do you recall that? Witness nods, head. So apparently, wait, didn't you say that, Pinkchyu couldn't get a witness to testify earlier, but she has a witness here? I'm so confused. Is Think Before You Sleep actually just fucking, dumb or something? Whatever. And has he done to your life since he made that statement on November 22nd, 2024? He completely destroyed my streaming career. I barely ever streamed. I had to completely switch to another platform for content and to make money. How did he destroy your streamer career? No one wanted to get near me because he would attack them too. And he had already done that to some people. An example is, her name's Morgan. People didn't want to associate with me or collab with me, so I actually ended up having to fly out to LA a lot to make friends and do collaborations to help my career. There was reference to a text message that you sent him asking for a blowjob right before you went to Austin Oaks Day. Do you recall that? Yes. All right, so it goes off into a different topic. Again, like, Tectone is, like, a legitimate fucking rapist. We knew this. But also, like, in regards to this material, I wouldn't doubt that Tectone has a bigger following than Pinkchyu does, so it makes sense that Tectone, if he says that the allegations are false, and a lot of his audience is right-leaning, and they're gonna just, like, guzzle whatever the fuck Tectone and, like, whoever is in Tectone's orbit says, they're just gonna think that she's a liar, and it's gonna open up Pinkchyu to a ton of harassment. This is kind of just, unfortunately, how it works. Even though Tectone morally is in the wrong, optically, Tectone was able to look somewhat okay out of this, I guess.
Now, personally, I don't know the validity of her claim. She provides no evidence of this outside of saying that's what happened.
Why would you expect evidence in a fucking court transcript? What are you talking about?
And she could have just as easily nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a...
What? Oh my god, this guy is so fucking stupid! Jesus Christ, what?
Nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a lot of streams together. But not...
What? Oh my fucking god, dude, this guy's such an... It's almost like streamers have different personalities when they are offline and they are on stream. People act very differently on streams. How fucking stupid is this guy? Think Before You Sleep has been content creating for fucking years now. He, of course, should know better than anybody that that's the case. So now he's just going to be intentionally dense here and say, oh, you were always recording. You know, you could have nuked your own stream to make it seem like Tectone was more abusive or whatever. What? What's the fucking, like, holy mental gymnastics?
Nonetheless, she's suggesting that her online career was over and her life was ruined, which is stupid because her primary income is Fansly and OnlyFans. It's stupid because hating on OnlyFans creators only makes them more popular.
Yeah, and you want every single excuse to shit on her because she does OnlyFans. Again, you come across like a massive fucking incel.
Everyone who is good at social media...
You managed to score one of the biggest losers online and were, like, dating them, Brittany Venti, who's also, like, very right-leaning. You managed to get with her, and even that's a relationship you couldn't maintain, which I guess clues into how much of a big fucking incel you are.
And knows that. That's why OF chicks go on podcasts like Whatever or Fresh and Fit and say dumb stuff.
Yes, the Fresh and Fit podcast, which sole purpose is to promote OnlyFans creators and to berate them. Like, that is the whole purpose of, like, Red Pill podcasts. Wow, who would have thought? Thanks for the commentary.
It's to promote their content.
When you got kicked off of Fresh and Fit the first time, how much money did you make, girl, afterwards? Like, how many...
Fresh and Fit, there's no one that does more for OnlyFans women than Fresh and Fit. You have helped sex workers more than anybody, I think, in the world. You have given us the world. Every time I come on your show, my money goes way up. And then he kicked me off, and then he invited me back on. So
the only bad press that you can get for OnlyFans is being unattractive. People don't care about the morality of a porn star.
Okay. I get. Like, why do you need to, like, why is this commentary important? Like, we're talking about the fucking court case and whether or not the allegations are false. Why is the, like, commentary of whether or not fucking OnlyFans stars to you are attractive or not? Is this a bit of a Freudian slip that you're, like, secretly gay or something and that you, like, jerk off to fucking trans people because you hate trans people as well? Bit of a Freudian slip there, Mr. Think Before You Sleep.
It's actually kind of a problem because you can inadvertently make the thing more popular by criticizing it. So Pinkchyu suggesting that her life was...
By that logic, you being an incel in this video could bring more awareness. Wow, holy hot take.
...over after a single tweet from Tectone where, keep in mind, he was defending himself against allegations with no corroborating evidence. It's his right to do...
If you say so. Jesus Christ, this guy is so fucking stupid.
...do that. So Pinkchyu suggesting that her life was over after that tweet couldn't be further from the truth. She's now more popular than ever and has more social media followers than Tectone between Instagram and TikTok. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take it from Mujin, who said on Twitter, "Let it be known that from this point onward, anyone's..."
Oh god, this guy. I don't like Mujin either. I think Mujin is like a weird, like, guy who cares way too much about his optics. And he just, like, tries to appeal to, like, loser fucking VTubers online. So I'm not a particular fan of Mujin either. It seems to be he knew a lot more about Tectone behind the scenes. And then the moment it went public, he obviously cut ties to protect his brand. Like, I guess, okay.
still caught defending.
That's kind of what it strikes to me as. I'm not a particular fan of Mugen either. I don't think he's a particularly authentic person.
Tectone is purposefully ignoring facts for what is most likely a desperate and pathetic attempt at gaining favor or clout. I mean, maybe, though I'm not sure what facts he was talking about. Note that he said this before the transcript was made available, so real smart of him to not wait until the evidence was public. However, you can see that he is very much on Pinkchyu's side, and more importantly, you can see him stating here that she makes significantly more money than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power.
Isn't it Tectone that makes more money than her? What are you even talking about? And finally, okay, this is like an excerpt from Mugen's tweet. And finally, to really put salt in the wound to any of the same tired excuses that will undoubtedly keep coming out to defend him, no, the victim did not do this for clout, seeing that she has more followers than Tectone. On what social media feed? Are we talking about, like, TikTok? Oh my fucking... Dude, okay, you know this is disingenuous. 2 million followers on TikTok is nothing. Like, 2 million followers on TikTok is, like, equivalent to, like, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like, that's literally nothing. And then, like, fucking, Twitch followers, obviously Twitch followers are worth more than, like, Instagram followers, for example. These social media platforms are a lot more popular, and they're a lot easier to, like, put yourself out there on. Like, again, I think Before You Sleep understands this, or maybe, I don't even know, honestly. Like, it's hard to tell whether he's just dumb or he's dishonest. I actually legitimately just think Before You Sleep is a total moron, and he's, like, actually making, like, a total fucking, like, false equivalence here. But, okay, whatever.
Than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power, and thus makes her look like the aggressor.
Yeah, she has more followers on TikTok and Instagram, not on Twitch and YouTube, which are completely different ballparks.
But here's the...
Like, different algorithms and different game entirely.
Part where things get interesting. Again, you would have to understand social media to recognize...
That would be... Essentially, that would be, like, playing fucking, like, Fortnite and getting, like, 20 kills in Fortnite and being like, oh, look at me, I'm good at Apex Legends. That's essentially the equivalent that you just gave there, right? Like, obviously, one is going to be a little bit... The barrier to entry to each game is... One's going to be a little bit easier than the other. That's, like... That's the point.
Recognize this stuff. On this page 144, Pinkchyu mentions a girl named Morgan, and then she says that she went to Los Angeles to do collabs. I think it was a mistake to say this, because Morgan is almost certainly Morgpie, a person who Pinkchyu has done numerous collabs with.
Not me.
Okay, who cares?
That's funny because I picked that card in a different group and it was me. But I'm a big one.
Again, she's done a number of collabs with Morgpie, like this one here at the gym. God, she must edit her photos a lot. I'm not even looking at the same person when she's on video and in a place where she can't cake on makeup.
Who cares? Oh my god, wow, she, like, does plastic surgery or she edits her photo. First of all, how do you edit photos in a YouTube video or, like, a Instagram OnlyFans video promo? How does that work? Explain that one to me. Second of all, who cares? Even if it was true, why does it matter to you? Again, like, when you talk like this, you really come across like you're a complete fucking incel.
Anyway, there's tons of video evidence of them interacting with each other, and tons of tweets and stuff, so this person, Morgan, is almost certainly Morgpie. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Morgpie is famous for is helping signal boost false allegations against the YouTubers who run a channel called Super Mega. Turkey Tom made a huge video on it.
Did she actually? I don't even know if Morgpie signal boosted the Super Mega situation. Listen, I didn't start uploading at all. Or drama content at least, when the Super Mega stuff was happening. Like, pretty much the Super Mega stuff is that Lex Updog was sexually assaulted. She may or may not have been sexually assaulted, we'll never know for sure, by this guy named Don. But they cut all ties with Don because when they found out, they were like, oh, that's a horrible thing to happen. But then, like, Lex Updog used that as an opportunity to weaponize her allegations to try to cancel everybody else at Super Mega. And she pretty much lied about, like, 8 different things. Like, the sexual assault story might be real, but, like, she lied about pretty much everything else about her story. And so I don't particularly think Lex Updog is a good person. It's hard to believe whether she was or wasn't sexually assaulted. I don't blame people if they come to the conclusion that she wasn't sexually assaulted because of how much she lies. But like, again, the people at Super Mega handled it like decently well, and obviously there were some people like Nick is Not Green who signal boosted it and like irresponsibly covered the allegations.
Super Mega is a comedy gaming channel with almost 1 million subscribers, run by Matt Watson and Ryan McGee. Over the past 2 years, the channel has found itself mired in endless controversy. However, none would prove as devastating as those levied in July of 2023. That month, a cosplayer named Lex accused Super Mega's channel artist, Don, of SA. Matt and Ryan were named for mishandling the situation. This sparked enough backlash for a whole new wave of accusations to surface from former friends and employees. Lex's outright lies in her own video poisoned the well, and if her initial story about Dom was true—
Damn, did she drink from that well? Look at her fucking teeth.
True, it is severely discredited by the various falsehoods she spread. These falsehoods were supported by her boyfriend, Ethan Is Online, their friend—
Aren't they, like, called Eden Riley now? Isn't, like, Ethan Is Online, like, aren't they trans now? Pretty sure they're trans, and they call themselves Eden Riley.
And Nick Is Not Green, their other friend, Leighton Stollard.
To be fair, Nick Is Not Green did apologize for his controversy after a while, and I think he is trying to, like, turn a new leaf and, like, have an opportunity to change. So, like, I think Nick Is Not Green can have the opportunity to change. The problem is that Nick Is Not Green refuses to actually, like, make content separate from his own controversy because, like, he took his— I would say his career took, like, an insanely massive hit after the whole Super Mega controversy.
Morg Pie, and even Rav. All of these people spread provable lies to smear Super Mega as a brand.
Super Mega was a popular variety channel that had a podcast, and this was quite the Turkey Tom video. It's kind
I mean, maybe Morg Pie. I don't know Morg Pie's involvement with this situation. I would need to, like, educate myself on that. Maybe she did spread false allegations, and that's terrible. But again, what does this have to do with the Pinkchyu Tectone situation? It seems like you're doing this, like, weird guilt by association thing. Oh, Morg Pie might have spread false allegations. That's irresponsible, but maybe stick with engaging with the fucking material instead of doing this, like, weird guilt by association thing.
Kind of like an epic set of false allegations, but where Morg Pie plays a role is that she had a crush on one of the owners named Matt. Matt didn't want to pursue a relationship, but they hooked up twice, and then I think Matt chose a different girl over her.
Honestly, I cried for months over that guy. I was like, give me one of your shirts, you know what I mean? So I posted a picture of me wearing the shirt I took of his onto my personal Twitter, not like my big one, but my other one. And he texted me after ghosting me, after I asked him if he wanted to hang out again that night. He didn't respond to me asking if he wanted to hang out again. He responded with a screenshot of the post and was like, hey, can you take this down? Like, people have seen me in that shirt, like they know that shirt. Can you just take down this post?
Did you hear the part where she said she made the post on a second account? Kind of like similar to what Pinkchyu did. What an odd coincidence.
Okay, wow, Morg Pie and Pinkchyu, what an odd coincidence. They're not the same fucking person. This doesn't prove anything.
To quickly sum things up, Morg Pie became—
Literally, it does not prove anything to us whatsoever.
Friends with a disgruntled ex-Super Mega employee named Leighton, whose goal was to do whatever he could to ruin their career. Morg Pie's purpose was—
We're really deep diving into the Super Mega thing again, aren't we? Holy shit.
To basically signal boost and give validity to all of the provably false things that Leighton was saying about Super Mega. During this time, she also doxes the ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend of one of the owners, and it seems like the doxing was intentional to get back at him for picking another girl over her.
I don't even know if this is what happened. Like, the whole Super Mega situation is very complex. There's a lot of layers to it, so for all I know, this could be true, but I don't even remember this part in particular, if this was even part of it.
Again, these are very familiar circumstances.
So I was just talking about personal details being unnecessarily mentioned and weaponized to make me look worse, and unfortunately more people have jumped on that bandwagon. One of those people being Morgan, aka Morg Pie. Morgan not only brought my current girlfriend into the situation on stream without her consent, she also name-dropped my girlfriend and revealed that we were in a relationship, which was not public information. I'm very private about my relationships, so this was a big blow. Morgan also brought my ex-girlfriend into the picture without her consent and has strongly hurt her because of this.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a very I mean, again, Morg Pie might have, like, a deep involvement with this Super Mega situation. Maybe she, like, legitimately was, like, a jealous person that when she hooked up with Matt, maybe she did get jealous that he chose another girl over her. And she was upset at it. Maybe. That's probably, like, upsetting. But, like, again, I'm not, like, what do you... Like, what am I supposed to do with this in the context of Tectone and Pinkchyu? I don't understand. Like, he's... Like, again, Think Before You Sleep is doing, like, this weird guilt by association thing, and this has absolutely nothing to do with the court document. Again, engage with the fucking material, Mr. Think Before You Sleep.
She lied about conversations with my ex-girlfriend. She wrongly stated that I had been having a multiple-month affair with my current girlfriend while I was dating my ex-girlfriend. She also lied about not knowing who my current girlfriend was, because she did know who that was, and she used it as a segue to name drop her. She also falsely claimed that I was cheating on my current girlfriend, which is not true. They are both being harassed viciously, and their personal lives are being used as weapons to make me look worse, and I think that's completely unacceptable.
And by the way, even though the allegations were false, they still succeeded. Super Mega took a...
No, they didn't. What are we talking about? Like, Super Mega was able to set the record straight, and, like, the court of public opinion was overwhelmingly on Super Mega's side after that. Like, Nick is Not Green was getting tons of fucking backlash for signal boosting these allegations and spreading and, like, pretty much doubling down on the side of Lex Updog and Eden Riley, who is, now, like, again, now Eden Riley, I should say. And, like, nobody even likes Lex Updog or Eden Riley anymore. Like, they're completely, like, their reputations are over. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Huge hit, and it really hasn't been the same since.
I mean, that part I can believe. Like, if you suffer through allegations, like, obviously your career is going to take a hit, and it sucks that you may have opportunities robbed from you, but I don't think their career is completely unsalvageable. I think that they were able to salvage what they could, and they got a majority of their audience back. Did they lose some people? Probably. But I don't think it's, like, beyond, like, something they can't recover from.
Even after Super Mega was exonerated in the eyes of the public. So if you're wondering why people do these tactics and coordinate these ops on Discord and stuff, it's because they work.
Yeah, obviously Pinkchyu is not doing that in this court case. You're comparing Morgue Pie being jealous and signal boosting allegations, probably irresponsibly from the sounds of it. It sounds like Morgue Pie was pretty jealous and irresponsible, and maybe she, like, had a bit of an anchor bias towards the allegations and thought, oh, maybe these allegations are true because Matt hurt me once, so maybe they were true. I don't know. Any number of things could have happened. Guess what? Whatever the case is, not comparable to Tectone being a fucking rapist. Not even close. Not comparable. This, like, you just spent so much time making this point for fucking nothing because you're an idiot. That's the only, like, reason I can come to.
So where am I going with all this? Well, Pinkchyu's...
That you're an idiot.
Official story is that she thought her relationship with Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend.
I don't even know. Hold on. Are you talking about the blowing? Yes. I had tried to originally confide in a girl that was a mutual friend. Okay. And when was that? Did you try and confide in her? I believe it was possibly a week before that text, or I don't remember. Okay. It was a little bit after the first time we broke up. Okay. Then what happened? I told her that he would make me give him blowjobs and that she freaked out. And I'm like, but it's all fine because it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, okay, so what she's describing here is very normal for people who go through sexual assault or who survive sexual assault. A lot of people tend to downplay their own experience. They think, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's not nearly as bad as what other people have gone through. Like, you know, it couldn't have been sexual assault because you still love the person. You think, oh, they would never do something horrible to me. That's what this is. Like, Pinkchyu is downplaying her own experience because she hasn't fully conceived the idea that it could have been sexual assault until after the relationship ended. That's very common. And I got scared because I didn't know if I could trust her. He then, the next day, sat me in his office and sat me in a chair. And he's like, I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to step inside and out. And he stepped outside of the office and he said, you're going to tell me everything you told her in detail, and I want to know if you're lying. And we're going to have her on the phone back and forth and find out all the information. You're going to text me that you want to suck my dick or else I'm not going to trust you. Sounds like he's leveraging some level of power. He's saying, you should text me to suck my dick or else I am not going to trust you. That's kind of what that reads to me as. It seems like Tectone is leveraging his power there to some capacity.
With Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend who told her that actually she was being abused. And yes, this sounds very much like I consented to sex and then changed my mind later.
Okay, you're an idiot. If that's your interpretation of everything that Pinkchyu went through, you're actually like a moron. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that's like it's just not the correct interpretation whatsoever.
It's like 2015 college feminist behavior.
Okay, dude, you're a fucking idiot. Oh my god, this guy is so dumb. Holy fuck. Oh, god.
Anyway, my personal opinion is that the friend who...
Your personal opinion is stupid. I don't care.
Pinkchyu talked to was Morgpie, which is why her name randomly slips in the transcript. And
okay. No one wanted to get near me because he would attack them too, and he had already done that to some people. An example is her name's. I think we already read this. Yeah, we already read this.
I think the actual reason that Pinkchyu is doing all of this is because she's mad that Tectone broke up with her, and she's mad that he is with someone else after she clearly was still into him when the relationship ended, based on texts that were shown in court. And what I mean is that on page 113, after the breakup, before she goes into the mental hospital,
and before you went into Austin and Hoax, you sent John a series of text messages. You guys, I think we read this already, and that's what we see on the screen behind us. Yes, that's our discussion. And you said, I really need a friend right now. Okay, I mean, it's possible that people are still attached after a breakup. Breakups are tough, and again, it's confusing for the people involved. So maybe Pinkchyu still had some level of attachment to Tectone after that. I don't know. Again, it's complicated.
She's talking
that
about...
doesn't necessarily mean that what happened to her was okay.
How much she loves him and says, I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm going to get a full psych evaluation and...
Yeah, it sounds like she's very confused about how she feels about the whole thing.
Get some real help. So I've read certain parts of this transcript a lot of times, particularly this part, and here it sounds like the actual story is that she was having regular psychological breakdowns. He got tired of putting up with it, so her going to the mental hospital was like, no wait, I swear I'll change. I would also guess that she was threatening self-harm if he broke up with her, which is why she's saying, I'm sorry if I ever hurt you, which again, makes her look like the abuser because threatening self-harm is emotional blackmail. Honestly, this visit to the mental hospital looks like some sort of bargain to get him back after the breakup, and I think the actual reason that Pinkchyu acted out on social media is because she's pissed off that Tectone moved on to somebody else.
I don't think that's what it is, but okay. Whatever false narrative or false interpretation you want to latch onto helps you sleep better at night for wanting to sweep for a fucking rapist, because that's essentially what you want to do. You want to sweep for a fucking rapist. Think before you sweep. That's going to be your name now. Think before you sweep for a fucking rapist.
Based on the information that I've shown, I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Now, pay attention to who Pinkchyu's friend Morgpie is friends with. Would it shock you if I said that Hassan Piker is a friend of hers?
Oh, we got to get Hassan Parker in there as well. Very offline behavior to get Hassan Parker involved into this somehow. It's all Hassan. It all ties back to Hassan. Guess what? Hassan might be a cringe fucking propagandist who supports terrorist propaganda and all that stuff. But, you know what I mean? Like, guess what? What Tectone did, miles worse than Hassan. Like, Hassan is not a rapist, to my knowledge.
I don't know how every bad thing on social media always relates back to this social circle, but it seems to...
I think you want it to relate back to Hassan Parker so badly. That's why you're so desperate to jam him in as much as possible in this video. I think you just want to jam Hassan Parker in.
Be the case. Why is that important? Well, Hassan Piker has this ongoing war with Asmongold. Probably because he's mad that Asmon is more famous than him. Hassan likes to sit back and have his little lackeys do all the dirty work for him. This is a famous tactic of his, and he primarily works by not directly saying that he has certain values.
So, you're... Okay, very interesting levels of cope from Think Before You Sleep here. Just, saying that... Basically, Hassan is like the master puppeteer behind every single allegation of Pinkchyu. Pinkchyu is associated with Morgpie, and Morgpie is associated with Hassan Parker, and Hassan Parker did all these bad things that we don't like, and so therefore it's all gonna tie back to Hassan Parker. That's your argument here. Holy mental gymnastics.
But he will signal boost all the people who have the values that he wants to promote by watching their content on his stream. That being said, Tectone is friends with Asmongold. Hassan wants to...
Yeah, and like Asmongold and Tectone are totally fine with running defense for ICE and pedophilia in the White House, basically. So, and Lolly as well. Can't forget that like Nux Taku and Tectone were like running defense for Lolly.
attack Asmongold in any way that he can, so I think his lackeys came up with a plot to destroy Tectone. They do this a lot. Recently, Girl Hassan and promoter of incest, aka Denims, randomly attacked...
The Bible promotes incest, and Tectone is a huge, like, lover of the Bible, and so is a lot of the right-wing grifters. Are you going to say anything about them promoting incest or them being engaged with incest or supporting it to some capacity? Or are you just going to, like, virtue signal only when Denims does it?
Emiru for being friends with Asmongold, and for not talking about her politics, which was stupid and pointless.
Oh yeah, that was pretty stupid. I do agree. Like, people going after Emiru for not wanting to talk about... Like, Emiru seems like she's someone who's disengaged from politics as a whole, and she just, like, so happens to be, like, friends with people like Asmongold and other people in OTK. So yeah, I do agree. People going after Emiru... A lot of people were using this as an opportunity to attack Emiru because they know Emiru's not going to fight back and that she's a kind of a ditzy girl. I agree. This whole controversy was a little bit silly. I think she could have been, like, less defensive about it, but that's really the only criticism I have against her. I feel like people were very stupid about this whole thing.
Racist chud. Emma is friends with Asmongold, Lakari, Tectone, plus she thinks Ethan Klein's lawsuits are justified.
Asmongold's a bad person.
Holy shit, dude. This is so fucking terminally online. It's like, again, yes, we know that attacking Emiru was a stupid thing to do. Again, what does this have to do with the court case?
Tone is a bad person.
But going back to...
Yes, we know that.
Tectone, seeing that Morgpie has...
Thank you for actually talking about the fucking material.
...already been involved in conspiracy behavior against Super Mega, I don't think it's that unreasonable to say that this tactic is being repeated a lot.
Morgpie's hardly involved with the lawsuit. Again, you went off on a whole tangent about Morgpie's potential involvement because Pinkchyu mentioned her name once in her story when she hardly has anything to do with the court case whatsoever. You just went on this whole fucking make-believe story about Morgpie just, like, being, like, a co-conspirator in this whole thing, and then Hassan being the puppet master behind everything. It was, like, so fucking idiotic.
Ethan Klein being yet another example of a person who Hassan's social circle has conspired against. So basically, the lackeys create the noise, and then Hassan does stuff like signal boost false information about Tectone that was said by Miskiff.
Apparently, Miskiff sent, like, a court reporter to the court to take notes in this process. Then he brought Hasanabi saying, like, how when he shocked his dog. So apparently he did a right-wing pivot, and he thought that but Hasanabi bad would work in a court of law. This is why I always...
Yeah, I don't like Hassan for shocking his dog. I think that's shitty. I don't agree with shocking your dog and also using your dog as a set piece for 4 or 5 hours straight. I don't think that's as bad as raping your ex-partner. I think raping your ex-partner and supporting Lali and justifying it and associating yourself with people like Lakari, Nuxtaku, Maga, who are all in defense for pedophilia, I would say that's probably worse than shocking and being abusive to your dog. And, like, obviously what Hassan's doing is not okay, but Tectone's miles worse.
Say nobody grifts to the left.
Sorry, that last line wasn't super relevant, but it was so stupid that I had to include it.
Okay, bro.
If you
You're so funny, dude. I'm laughing.
Read the court transcript. It was actually Pinkchyu's lawyer who brings up that Hassan abuses animals.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, the internet believes that if you judge someone based on their skin color, it's bad unless you're white, and then it's okay. So I've talked about that briefly on the internet. Well, maybe a little bit more than briefly at this point. And then the Pinkchu's lawyer is, and you refer to Hassan, who is another streamer, as a terrorist supporter and a dog abuser, correct? Okay, I mean, obviously, like, these lawyers are not as engaged with the online sphere. I mean, it's fine. They don't need to be engaged with the online sphere to know that Tectone's a piece of shit. Yeah, he electrocuted his dog on stream, and he says Hezbollah is doing a good thing, and I don't think supporting terrorism is a good thing, nor is abusing your animal. Bro, you're a rapist. You're a rapist. Hassan is just a lolcow. You described Hassan being like a bit of a lolcow. You're a threat to women, Tectone. You're like miles worse than Hassan is, to our knowledge. White privilege is propaganda the real racists have been using to be racist towards whites, and they've for things they never did for decades. You posted that on October 27th of 2025. Is that right? That sounds like something I posted. Okay, but the death threats are originated because of my client's post where she didn't name you in November of 2024. Is that right? Yeah, you can check the timestamps on the threats if you'd like.
Not Tectone. And the reason it was brought up was because of a retarded counter-argument
that
Pinkchyu's lawyer made about the allegations against Tectone having no effect on how much hate he gets, because he brings up things like Hassan shocking his dog. It was such a stupid part of the transcript because Pinkchyu's lawyer is arguing that Pink's pretty direct allegations against Tectone on Twitter of one of the most horrific crimes didn't really have an effect on how many threats he gets, because nobody could figure out that she was talking about him, despite numerous people in the comments saying that it was Tectone. But when Tectone says any random thing about OnlyFans, even when he's showing that he's referencing a different person, it's an immediate threat to Pinkchyu's life. So
because Tectone is obviously projecting his hatred towards OnlyFans women, and not everybody has the context that Tectone has rapist allegations against him, whereas Pinkchyu gives allegations about a previous relationship he's in. It's much easier to put two and two together with Pinkchyu's post than with Tectone's post. Okay, think before you sleep, Mr. False Equivalence Conspiracy Theorist over here.
Again, I think there's a bigger thing going on here where a bunch of people are...
Great, more conspiracy theories, as if we needed more of those.
...collaborating with Pinkchyu to try to destroy Tectone, Morgpie being one of them. But
yeah, obviously, you're reaching super hard when it comes to Morgpie.
By the way, these people are often stupid, so they leave tons of evidence lying around.
Oh, that's ironic.
Here's Mizkif going on a huge tirade during his Tectone video, where he's basically blowing Hassan and the rest of the LA streamer scene.
You attacked Hassan for months, years now, shitting on Hassan, farming so much hate on the guy, acting like he's a problem. You're farming hate on Hassan Piker all fucking day, Frogan, people that are doing shit. You attacked Pokimane, Cutie Cinderella.
I don't think it's...
I mean, obviously, I think Mizkif is a piece of shit. I don't think he's a good person, but I'm pretty sure his original point in that clip was that, like, Tectone has a pattern of behavior of shitting on people who might be, like, a little more promiscuous, or OnlyFans girls. Pokimane doesn't do OnlyFans, but you could argue she kind of, like, thirst traps a little bit online, so, like, Tectone probably goes after her for that, and because of the simps she may have in her audience. I mean, I think it's a little bit cringe, but it's not, like, it's not that fucking deep. Like, what Pokimane does, that is. Tectone is just, like, a massive fucking incel, and so is Think Before You Sleep.
That much of a stretch.
And so is everybody that watches them, quite frankly.
To say that these people are talking, especially considering they live in the same area. I mean, Mizkif flat out admits to talking to Pinkchyu.
If you're... Wait, I'm sorry. You just said that Morgpie co-signed false allegations about sexual assault with Super Mega, but now you're going to say it's not far-fetched for Morgpie to associate with somebody else who was accused of sexual assault? I'm sorry. What the fuck are we talking about? Are we just bending logic at our will? You cannot have both that coexist. Mizkif's allegations are very well known at this point. I highly doubt Morgpie does not know about them. And you're saying that it's not far-fetched for her to still associate with Mizkif and propagate this behind the scenes? And then another moment, you're going to say that she would absolutely propagate false allegations? I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense. Your narrative doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever.
But, you know, not out of concern for her well-being, but to point out that she didn't think it was weird when he shook her hand for too long that one time.
Me and his ex-girlfriend started to talk, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I never ever said that in my fucking life. Why the fuck would I care about that? Like, I did not shake her hand a long time.
You can watch Mizkif for about 60 seconds and easily see that this guy only cares about himself.
Yeah, it's probably Tectone as well, given that he sexually assaulted somebody, and it's only feels good for one person in that situation.
Personally, I think all of this drama farming for him is just to make people not pay attention to his ex-girlfriend Emiru's allegations, saying that he was pretty abusive.
That might be true, honestly, because Mizkif is an abusive piece of shit.
After, like, all of that Rust stuff happened was when the other domestic abuse stuff really started. He would destroy furniture in front of me. He would throw things in front of me and near me. Destroy walls. Again, you can go see this in some of his VODs in his bedroom, the holes in the wall. There would be times where he was upset at me and I would go to my stream room and literally lock myself in to get away from him, and he would be banging on the door and screaming at me. At the time, he also would more often do things like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour, and like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die.
Yeah, Mizkif is pretty terrible, but based on all the court documents available, again, Tectone seems to be much, much worse. Not that Mizkif is, like, completely exonerated. He's absolutely not. He's still a gross, disgusting piece of shit, but still.
Like, threatening to kill both of us?
Interesting story. So we have Mizkif talking to Pinkchyu. Well, of course he was talking to Pinkchyu because he couldn't have known about the court date and where to send his court reporter to take a bunch of factually inaccurate notes. And
I find it very hard to believe that Pinkchyu would be in the talks with a legitimately abusive person. Like, do you have anything to support this claim? You probably don't. And if you don't, then this point is going to fall really flat.
In fact, this idiot friend of Mizkif's who goes by Axion publicly admits to being invited to the court by Pinkchyu.
He knows me. I think he tried to get me kicked out or something. I can only assume. That's not for sure, because the bailiff came over and asked me, "Are you here for her?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." Did Pink know? I said, "Yeah." She signed me up to be there.
What an idiot to have.
Okay. Maybe she did sign him up to be there or something. I don't fucking know. Like, you can have anybody attend a court case. You know, like, just because she was in contact with this guy doesn't mean she was in contact with Mizkif. Doesn't prove your claim whatsoever.
I've admitted that. So now we know that Mizkif and Axion's involvement was directly approved by Pinkchyu.
No, we don't, because we don't have any evidence that, like, Pinkchyu was invited Mizkif or whoever. I kind of just don't believe that. You need more receipts than just a guess because of another guilt by association thing. Again, you're really relying to do guilt by association to do a lot of heavy lifting in this video for you.
Which is interesting because it seems to be the case that Mizkif has gone on a full-on disinformation campaign against Tectone, where he's...
God, so, like, we're really, like, just, like, running full defense for Tectone here.
Spreads numerous lies that are easy to disprove if you just look at the court transcript. So,
yeah, Mizkif is not exactly a reliable source of information, but you can look at the court documents and come to a very similar conclusion, even if Mizkif is exaggerating some of the information that he is portraying.
Now I believe this chick even less. If she was being honest, then she wouldn't have to side with people who constantly make statements of fact that are easy to verify as false. Here's another stupid one that Mizkif said.
And has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a small price.
Mizkif, if this is how factually accurate you are in reporting the story, then you should go work for CNN. The fees were around $15,000. It's said out loud in the courtroom, so his friend would have heard it. And you know, you think a guy like Mizkif, who has his own allegations of abuse and is saying they aren't true, would be more careful to accurately report information.
Maybe, but, like, again, we know that Mizkif is, like, a liar, and he doesn't really portray information well whatsoever.
Especially considering that this stuff is so easy to look up. Anyway, Mizkif also graciously leaked his own DMs, showing that he was talking to Mike from PA, another Hassan orbiter, who went on to repeat other bombastic things about Tectone.
So there you have it, chat. Tectone is a rapist. He is a stalker. He's a danger to the community.
Really just, like, showing every fucking, like, terminally online person in this fucking video, where you're really trying to jam-pack them to try to make this, like, weird video about how Pinkchyu is somehow, like, a weird liar, and it feels like this entire video you've just gone, like, full conspiracy brained.
And he should absolutely 100% be permanently banned from Twitch. And could someone explain to me why he's not been permanently banned from Twitch?
That is real crazy coming from a guy who was trying to get one of his viewers to assassinate a YouTuber he didn't like. Or was him simping over the $5 a month girl the more egregious offense?
Whoa, got him.
And last, as far as I've been able to find, I think Denims is a part of this.
Oh my god. Or fucking somehow Denims ties back into this too. Holy fucking god. This is so fucking terminally online.
As well.
This whole video is just somebody who is, like, drooling online 24/7. Doesn't eat, doesn't shit whatsoever.
Because she was openly saying that it was Tectone being accused of sexual assault before that was public. So personally, in my opinion, I think this whole situation was not because Pinkchyu was afraid of Tectone. I think it was a coordinated effort by people who hate Tectone to try to ruin his career. I mean, also, she has no proof that he's abusive outside of her saying he is. And let me elaborate on what I'm talking about. When Emiru accused Mizkif of being abusive, she brought receipts. She had Discord messages and then like a million schizo texts that he sent her after the breakup. Now I'm more likely to believe what she says because she can show documented behavior that supports her accusations. As for Tectone, the only time he mentions Pinkchyu is after she accuses him of abuse, and what's really going on here is that she made an allegation with no corroborating evidence. Tectone says that's not true, and now he's getting legally punished for it.
Okay, so a couple things. One, if there is any evidence regarding this case or the court case, they probably aren't allowed to show that evidence publicly because that could taint the case in a way that would mean that Tectone wouldn't get legally charged with anything. It could be very damaging. And even if you want to go back before this became a court case, right, where Pinkchyu releases her allegation and then Tectone gives his response, if that's the case, why don't we flip the logic on Tectone? Why doesn't he show proof for any of it? You know, obviously the burden of proof would be on Pinkchyu if she's giving the allegations, but she didn't want to like name she didn't want to drop Tectone by name, so she was just maybe giving it as like a form of be at peace with like her traumatizing relationship. That's to me what strikes her intention with coming forward about this. Now with Tectone, again, apparently his house was recording 24/7. If his own logic, he was recording 24/7, why doesn't Tectone just show that? Why doesn't he give proof for those recordings if there really wasn't anything there whatsoever? There's several reasons why we haven't seen proof for this yet.
It's actually disturbing how often these types of situations happen. I mentioned recently that Turkey Tom was falsely accused by an ex-girlfriend of his in a situation that is strikingly similar to Tectone's.
Turkey Tom's situation is not even remotely close to Tectone's. Turkey Tom was like accused of like recording his girlfriends non-consensually. That to me is like the most serious accusation, which Turkey Tom disproved with evidence. And then Turkey Tom was accused of being into age play. Didn't seem like it was as true as the accusers were making it out to be. And even if it is true, I would say age play is weird. I think that's gross. I personally don't like it, but if everybody is a consenting adult or within a reasonable age gap, I could care less. And then there was a whole bunch of other allegations that were just really stupid. Like, I pretty much knew that the Turkey Tom allegations, for the most part, were pretty stupid, apart from, like, one thing that could have been serious if it was true. But yeah, the whole thing seemed really stupid, overall. Very different from Tectone, who is credibly accused of sexual assault and abuse.
Where 4 days after the breakup, she goes on to Kiwi Farms to accuse him of physical abuse, filming without consent, and engaging in weird fetishes.
Which is, I would say, way less severe than Tectone's.
Recently, I've been accused by an ex-girlfriend, along with an ex-partner, of non-consensually filming sexual encounters, being so rough and inconsiderate during sexual encounters that it bordered on assault, encouraging eating disorders, being into age play, along with a litany of other completely baseless, false accusations.
The reality was that his ex-girlfriend, Rowan, was actively consenting to everything, including being filmed. She had a bunch of creepy fetishes, and she was trying to push Tom into behavior that he didn't want to engage with.
He never asked me. He would just pull out his phone and record. I wouldn't notice until maybe 30 seconds in a minute or a minute into it.
Now, I obviously can't and would never show these videos to anyone, but in them, it's undeniable that she is staring directly into the camera from the moment the video starts. Because the reality is that every single time we recorded, I had explicit permission. Rowan texts me saying, quote, "Rape thing is so hot." My response to this is consensual sex is good.
It's funny because Tom sends texts like the FBI is watching. I just want to make sure that we've established that this is all consensual, okay? Somebody knew this was coming.
In the interview, it stated that our breakup took place in December and that after that she realized how bad it was and she felt the need to contact Katie, who we're going to get into later.
Gee, where have I heard that one before? If you watch Tom's video on the false allegations against him, it's an incredibly similar story to Tectone's, except I think...
Not at all. Not in the least bit similar to Tectone's.
Tom is a little bit more conscientious about this stuff, and so he made...
Yeah, I mean, he's a big content creator, and obviously he's a lot more scared, and he has a lot more to lose. I mean, not that Tectone doesn't have much to lose, but, like, Turkey Tom is a fairly sizable content creator. He is a lot more careful with his personal interactions in case anything were to happen, and it seemed like Turkey Tom went on like a massive spree of just hooking up with really insane girls after a breakup from his girlfriend who he was dating for about maybe 3 years or so.
Made sure to have evidence of his ex openly saying that she would blackmail him if they didn't get back together.
Immediately after I told Rowan that I wanted to break up with her, she began threatening to post about me online.
I'm gonna make it hard for you to ever be in a relationship.
Okay, Rowan, I just want to move on and have my life, and you'll move on and have your life. And we can be in our own corners. We don't have to do damage to each other.
Like, do you think we'll ever be able to see each other?
After the way these conversations have gone today, I really don't think so.
Why?
Because you're, like, threatening to blackmail me.
I'm not. Well, if you don't come see me, then I will.
You know what's great about—
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you listen to that entire recording, obviously the girl's full of shit, and she absolutely is threatening to blackmail him. She's batshit fucking crazy. Like, that's pretty, like, clear to me. But, again, there's not really any similarities with this and Tectone whatsoever. It seems like Think Before You Sleep is very desperate to tie these situations together as if they were the same thing. I think the Tectone situation is much, much different than Turkey Tom's.
About all this, despite that Tom has her recorded saying that she will blackmail him, there really isn't much remedy you can get against someone for false allegations unless you sue them for defamation, which is expensive and hard to prove, and it's why people feel safe in falsely accusing somebody. And then asshats like—
okay, if you say so. Jesus Christ.
Hassan will boost the false allegations without—
We gotta bring Hassan back into it, bro. How many times are you gonna bring up Hassan and his orbit and somehow tie them back into all of this? Like, oh my god, this fucking video is so bad. Ugh.
Critical thought or saying, where's the evidence?
By the way, one of your OG slop tuber ops, Turkey Tom, also caught a sexual assault allegation where he physically abused—
Bro, it's so weird. Turkey Tom caught a sexual assault allegation. That wasn't even part of the original accusation. It was recording non-consensually. Not that it matters, because, like, either way, it's false. But, like that wasn't even the original allegation. Like, some of you people can't even, like, fucking portray the allegations correctly.
Two of his exes.
Obviously, Hassan's an idiot, okay? Like, we get it. Hassan is bad, but, like, there's somebody who is a more evil here.
This didn't even reach your radar because he's laying low. No, it didn't reach my radar because I have so many fucking ops that have done, like, sexual assault that I don't even know who the fuck this one is. But that's crazy.
There he is, just agreeing with and validating the allegation with no pushback, despite knowing nothing about it.
I'm pretty sure that's just Hassan being like, oh, that's crazy, assuming it's true or whatever. I mean, you could make an argument that maybe Hassan doesn't do as much due diligence, but, like, I don't think that's him over-validating the allegation. He's just like, oh, that's crazy. That's why, like, a lot of people do that. A lot of people are like, oh, if that's true, that's insane. You know, like, he didn't want to look into it, so he didn't really have much to say about it. I don't think that's enough to go like, oh, he's over-validating this allegation. Oh, he's agreeing with this allegation.
Luckily, Tom knew the exact way to humiliate his ex for blackmailing him and how to prove his innocence. But for average people, this can be life-destroying, and there's not really much you can do about it. Anyway, let's go to the court decision. Like everyone else, I already knew the results before I read this transcript, and I was still shocked to see this. Based on the testimony and the evidence that's been provided to the court does find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of sexual assault.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, based on everything we've heard in this story, like, again, Pinkchyu is very credible.
The court makes the additional finding that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of stalking and will grant a 10-year protective order. The court means the judge, by the way. The judge made this decision, just to make it clear that this was not a trial by jury. Some additional things. Tectone has to pay $15,000 in lawyer fees to Pinkchyu. He can't go anywhere near her. Who cares about that? He obviously doesn't want to go near her. He has lost his right to own a firearm for 10 years, which is nuts considering she didn't really have any evidence that Tectone was dangerous.
I would say Tectone's pretty dangerous. Also, the court taking away his guns for 10 years, that's pretty based.
And he's not allowed to talk about her, which again is also ridiculous, not because he can't say the name Pinkchyu for 10 years, but because of the criteria they consider to be a conversation about Pinkchyu. As in, if Tectone ever talks about OnlyFans in a negative light, is he liable for criminal charges? This is
maybe. I mean, he's obviously doing that to project his own feelings about Pinkchyu and being, I guess, quote-unquote, wronged by Pinkchyu. Like, he feels slighted by an OnlyFans girl, so his hatred of OnlyFans is going to be amplified.
Insane. Knowing nothing going in, I don't think any reasonable person would have agreed with the judge here. So,
I feel like most reasonable people come to the conclusion that Tectone is a gross person. The fact that you want to run defense for him so badly when he runs defense for a lot of gross shit, maybe check your hard drives, think before you sleep. I don't know. Maybe somebody check his PC.
I started researching on who this person is. Judge Dimple Malhotra. If you go to her website, it basically describes her as an activist who started out by working in San Francisco, California. Remember how...
she's too woke, right? Is that where we're going with this? Is she going to be too woke for this case? And so that means we need a more conservative judge who runs defense for Donald Trump being on the Epstein files. We need someone like that. Judge Dimple Malhotra spent the first 6 years of her career working on domestic violence issues in the nonprofit sector. Yeah, so it sounds to me like she's been doing this for a long time and she's very equipped to deal with these kinds of issues. If anything, what you're showing us right here just proves even more in favor that Tectone is a horrific bad person. What you're showing us right here, because you're showing that she has the credentials and the experience to back it up. That's what you're showing us here. Just to be absolutely clear. The newspaper articles and brochures below highlight some of her work, including a support group she started for South Asian women affected by domestic violence in the San Francisco Bay Area. Wasn't there like a trafficking situation going on back then? I could be totally wrong. That's just like off the top of my head. So, I don't know. There might be. Wanting to make a broader impact on the lives of people dealing with family violence, the next chapter in her career saw her take on responsibility for running family violence units at both the misdemeanor and felony levels for Travis County. After over a decade of serving the community in that capacity, she decided to apply for a judicial vacancy created in Court 4 when the honor judge, I don't know what that is, something judge, Mike Denton stepped down. Her background and experience is why the Travis County Commissioners appointed her to this court over a number of other applicants. Her experience and dedication to this issue is also why Travis County voters overwhelmingly elected her in seat in 2020 and re-elected her in 2022. Again, everything you're showing us here just shows that she's credible and that she has seen how people talk, and apparently Pinkchyu has enough to say that, oh yeah, this Tectone is absolutely a fucking threat to women, and he shouldn't be able to own a firearm for 10 years, and he shouldn't, we can grant this protective order. All of which are not easy things to fulfill, and I don't know, I feel like you're owning yourself with this one more than anything.
I said that Austin is the California of Texas. Also this.
It is so incredibly important that we celebrate and embrace diversity. And I think it's just so important.
I knew it! I knew it! He's like saying, oh my god, DEI is the problem. Now DEI is the problem with Tectone because we let a violent rapist get the consequences of not being able to own a firearm for 10 years. Oh my gosh. That is insane to me. Oh my god.
Important for... Even for this courtroom, when people walk into this courtroom and they're from...
We somehow managed to tie DEI bad into this conversation.
Different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses. To be able to walk in and see someone who looks like me, I think provides a certain level of comfort to them.
An immigrant who grew up in the U.S. with a family environment deeply rooted in Indian culture.
Wow. Wow.
Judge Dimple Malhotra is the first and only person of...
Them damn Indians. Them damn fucking immigrants are trying to fucking ruin the system by holding rapists accountable for what they've done.
South Asian descent.
Man, this video.
Elected to a judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their...
What do you mean one of those people? What is that supposed to mean?
Judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their race instead of their qualifications.
Oh, wow. Okay. Jesus Christ. This guy is so fucking dumb. This guy is so incredibly stupid. Oh, my God. It's killing me.
You know, often...
I almost feel bad for Think Before You Sleep because he's just like knuckle dragging levels of just stupidity.
Sometimes I think especially for me, being an immigrant, being a woman of color.
Basically, I'm saying the judge is woke. Now, there were...
Yeah, woke bad. Woke, she's so woke to the point where, I mean, listen, how does this disprove any of her qualifications? You're saying, oh, she's Indian, and she's, like, people are focusing on her race more than anything else. Does that disprove any of her experience with dealing with domestic abuse whatsoever? Because you haven't shown us that whatsoever.
A bunch of arguments.
And even then, your argument is already, like, a massive reach here.
It's made by Pinkchyu's lawyer that didn't really make sense to me. I mean the ones where she brings up Tectone talking about anti-white racism. What does that have to do with this case? What does it have to do with Pinkchyu?
I could ask the same about you and bringing up Hassan Parker constantly throughout this whole fucking thing and all of Hassan's orbiters into this drama. And also bringing Super Mega in, weirdly enough, in this, like, weird conspiracy theory that, like, Pinkchyu knew Morgue Pie and therefore Morgue Pie is in on this situation and Morgue Pie knew Hassan in the past and therefore Hassan is the puppet master of this entire thing. I could say the same about you, Think Before You Sleep. You really don't want to go down this road of, like, oh my god, what does this have to do with this?
Why did Pinkchyu...
I genuinely think Before You Sleep is actually, like, legitimately a very stupid person. That's why he just, like, his logic is very inconsistent throughout this entire video.
Bring up that she's half Mexican. Why are they making arguments?
Because Tectone hates minorities. Like, literally one of his latest videos has the N-word in it, and it was dog whistling that black people were problematic, and, like, Tectone has said slurs for attention constantly. Like, and also he has been extraordinarily hateful to illegal immigrants and perpetrates them as, like, pedophiles and rapists. So, obviously, with Pinkchyu being half Mexican, she would still be considered a minority.
Arguments that are irrelevant and would clearly make a judge who ran as a Democrat think that Tectone is a racist. Keep in mind that this court case is occurring on January 23rd of 2026, which is during a bunch of anti-ICE riots and after Renee Good died. These are very politically...
Renee Good was murdered. You say died, but she was murdered by an ICE terrorist. That's what happened. Say the entire thing. Don't be a fucking pussy. Don't be scared of your audience-captured platform. Be a fucking adult and say what happened to her. She was murdered by a violent ICE terrorist. That is what happened. That is not sensationalized. That is not some bullshit. That is exactly what happened. Stop being a coward and stop being afraid to be canceled by your own fucking right-wing audience. Just say what happened to her.
Polarized things to bring up that I think aren't relevant to tech.
So crazy, because isn't the, like, right-wing party supposed to be the party of anti-cancel culture as well? Like, they've called out, like, the left-wing cancel culture a lot in the past, but we're seeing a lot of cancel culture on the right as well. That's funny how that works.
Tectone's case. I'm guessing that maybe Pinkchyu's lawyer did some research on the judge, and maybe this is why Judge Malhotra didn't notice things like Pinkchyu's lawyer victim-blaming Tectone for his abuse as a child in her opening statements.
This is such, like, insane levels of cope that you're trying to get to defend Tectone, but okay.
Something that was immediately noticeable to me. I mean, this statement right here very much makes it seem like Pinkchyu was trying to use shame to force Tectone into sex acts that he was uncomfortable with because of his childhood trauma. Wouldn't it be ironic?
Oh my god, dude, this is so dumb.
Ironic if that were the case.
It's crazy. Like, I don't even know if I feel like engaging with any of these arguments anymore. It just, like, it feels so pointless to try to talk to people, like, Think Before You Sleep. Like, listen, it's impossible to win. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It is hard to win an argument against a genius. It's very difficult. It's impossible to win an argument against a very stupid person because they're never going to understand you.
Because you spent your career doing domestic violence cases and you have a background, some might think that it would be hard for you to be impartial as the judge.
Right.
So how do you maintain your impartiality?
As a prosecutor, I took an oath to seek justice, not conviction. And so people have to remember that and that not to say that there aren't prosecutors in the world who are doing the wrong thing. Unfortunately, with every profession, you have people who really shouldn't be in that profession, who are there for the wrong reason. I took an oath as a judge to be fair and impartial. And that is also incredibly important. People walking into your courtroom deserve your impartiality and to listen to their side of the story.
That was hard to listen to considering her decision on Tectone's case. How do you stay impartial? That's easy. The answer is she doesn't. Now, this does seem like a random question to ask, so why was it brought up? Well, the answer to that, I think, is a much bigger issue than the diversity stuff from earlier.
As if the diversity stuff was an issue to begin with.
Answer, I think, is a massive conflict of interest. I believe she was asked that question because a few years prior to this interview, there was an article written on her about how a lawyer got her taken off his case because of her domestic violence activism. Now, I think that trying to stop domestic violence is great. However, I also agree with the defense.
Yeah, which means that she's had a lot of years of experience with it, which means that she would be more qualified to talk about it, right?
Attorney Steve Brand, who says that her activism makes her biased towards alleged victims, and there's no way he could win a case with her as a judge. He also kind of recommends that every defense lawyer should be filing a motion to remove her from their case. And personally, after reading the transcript of Tectone's hearing, I agree. And in my armchair,
if you say so, dude,
internet lawyer opinion with 2020 hindsight, Tectone's lawyer should have gotten Judge Dimple removed and gone with somebody else. I'm curious how many other people like Tectone she's done this to, where the accuser has no corroborating evidence mixed in with strong counter evidence against her story.
A lot of people don't know that there's a huge intersection between gun violence and domestic violence.
Yeah, I mean, there absolutely is. I mean, people who are like violent people in homes domestically, if they are willing to express that violence through whatever house tools that they have available there, who's to say that they aren't going to do the same thing with a gun?
All the studies that have been done show us that over half of the cases where there have been mass shootings, the mass shooter has had a history of domestic violence.
Did I hear that correctly? Is this why Tectone has to be treated like a felon for something that, after reading the transcript, I don't think he did? It looks like she's on some sort of anti-gun crusade, which is why she took his access to firearms away for a decade.
Listen, I have very nuanced opinions about the Second Amendment. Like, I understand both sides of the argument. If I had to pick between the two, I'd probably pick between restricting guns more because of their usage on, like, school shootings and stuff and other things. But I also understand why people would want to own firearms. I actually do, like, sympathy. Like, I am willing to have, like, a legitimate conversation about it. I have a very, like, complicated opinion because I think it's fine to want to own a firearm to, in the case of, like, a government that becomes tyrannical. I feel like nowadays we're getting closer and closer to going in that direction every single day, so I kind of get it. But we also have to understand that, like, it's the obvious fucking counter argument is that, like, people abuse guns and they use it to commit atrocities, like school shootings, assassinating people. You guys understand, right? So I don't know. It's a tough issue, right? Like, obviously, the Second Amendment has been integrated in our culture for so long. I mean, guns have been sold at, like, flea markets, obviously gun stores, no shit. Police officers have guns. Like, guns are basically everywhere in America. It's, like, a huge part of our culture. And, you know, banning every single gun would be... You know, I don't think it's as simple as just banning every single gun, you know what I mean? It's an issue. And also, we have to remember, let's just say getting a gun ban would be possible, hypothetically. Then we wouldn't be able to stop criminals from actually obtaining that gun. They'll just do it through more illegal and dangerous methods. The same thing is happening with prostitution. Prostitution is illegal in most of the United States of America, aside from, like, one place, and it's in Nevada, Las Vegas, I believe. But aside from that, like, everywhere else, prostitution is illegal. I also have very complicated thoughts about prostitution, whether that should be legalized, but that's a whole separate conversation. Anyways, same for the Prohibition era, back in the 1920s. That's another, like, good example. Alcohol was banned for a long time. Did that stop people from drinking? No. As a matter of fact, studies show that during the Prohibition era, when they banned alcohol, the consumption of it actually went up. Very interesting how that works. So again, banning guns is not going to stop people from obtaining guns. Just, like, factually speaking. Anyway, that's a whole side tangent. I have very nuanced opinions about it. The whole point, in regards to Tectone's abuse story, is that domestic violence and gun violence has a lot of overlap. I don't think that's a hot take.
For a decade, when he's a streamer, which puts his life in danger, has she ever heard of the
That puts his life in danger? How would it put his life in danger?
Phrase correlation does not equal causation? What evidence do you have that Tectone's going to crash out and become like a mass shooter or something?
Well, Tectone did have anger issues, and he was a massive user of steroids, which has been known to give people a lot of anger problems.
Is this why...
Also, not to mention, Tectone is the son of a rapist as well, so it seems like being a rapist runs in the fucking family.
Pinkchyu's lawyer tried to associate him with white supremacy? Is it also why Pinkchyu's lawyer
Well, again, Tectone is very much in support of ICE and has made a lot of fucking dog whistles against brown people and illegal immigrants, and also black people as of recently, so... it seems like Tectone is aligning himself more and more with white supremacy every day.
morally, in my opinion, pretended to be a medical expert on schizophrenia to frame Tectone as an unmedicated psycho who could break any time? By the way, Tectone got re-diagnosed, and he doesn't have schizophrenia.
I went to a psychiatrist yesterday.
Yes, because we can trust Tectone's word for it, as if he's not going to embellish or lie about details as he has provably done in the past. Good job. Think before you sleep. Because Tectone's word is more believable. Didn't you just make a whole fucking argument in this entire video how you can't take Pinkchu's word for anything that she says? Why the fuck are you taking Tectone's word for it now?
Guys, I'm not schizophrenic. The psychiatrist believes the reason why I see things that aren't there, mainly, well, at night, is due to the fact that I got stabbed in my left eye and my right eye is normal. And so they believe that my eyeballs are causing me to temporarily hallucinate things that aren't there because they're not signaling my brain properly. And what they believe that I have is anxiety with bad vision as well as unresolved childhood trauma. And so I was
Maybe. I don't know. All those things might be true. Doesn't excuse what he did.
going to actually try to get medicated. They said I do not require medication.
You have to read the transcript to get to the level of fuck these people that I'm at.
Wow, that is the most ironic thing I think you've said this entire video. Holy shit.
Basically what's happened here is that to a judge who appears to be in favor of DEI and appears to be anti-gun, Pinkchu's lawyer framed Tectone as a violent, unmedicated, schizophrenic neo-Nazi. Tectone is also...
God. Oh my god. I can't with this fucking guy.
Bald, so he has what was seen as a skinhead, too. No wonder this trial ended the way it did. This is so messed up, and I don't just think this is a violation of the First and the Second Amendment, but also a violation of the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It's also clear to me, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've shown, that a big part of the reason that Pinkchyu filed for this protective order is to avoid a defamation lawsuit. Maybe Tectone's biggest mistake here was being openly arrogant around all this during his live streams, but it's hard to blame him because who in the hell would have thought that he would have lost this case based on the evidence in the court transcripts? And you know what the real messed up thing is? Well, I said it already. Pinkchyu most likely will not receive any consequences for this, and Tectone will probably not be able to win an appeal because of how appeals court works. The sad truth is that there is very little recourse for victims of false allegations, and if Pinkchyu were found to be lying, which, in my opinion, she was, there's basically nothing that you can do outside of suing for defamation, which is incredibly expensive, hard to prove, and Tectone likely would not win a defamation case because the order of protection was granted.
Not only that, but Tectone also wouldn't win because he is also guilty of the things that he's being accused of, so that's also why he wouldn't win.
Well, if he's even allowed to file...
But I forgot, this video is just like a massive sweep for rapists, so I don't think that... there's no point in trying to be intelligent with someone like Think Before You Sleep.
A lawsuit like
with someone like him.
That at this point. On top of that, this horrendous court decision will give protection to people such as Hassan Piker, Denims, Mike from PA, and Miskiff when they call Tectone an abuser.
Oh my god. Oh, fucking Christ. It's just like, the constant tying of Hassan in this video is just like killing me.
And when they repeatedly lie.
I don't like Hassan, but Hassan has absolutely nothing to fucking do with this. Like, I actually legitimately think Before You Sleep has legitimate Hassan derangement syndrome or something. Because, like, it's insane the amount of fucking mental gymnastics that Think Before You Sleep has had to do to constantly tie Hassan into this when all Hassan has done is just given his opinion haphazardly, maybe, but does that change the fact that Tectone's a bad person? No. You haven't shown that Hassan was the puppet master behind this, despite the fact that you were trying to lean into that conspiracy theory, we'll say.
About the facts of the case.
There was also, and this is confirmed, he had recordings of some of the...
How the fuck do you keep showing these people, dude? Like, come on.
Sexual assaults and his victim in sexually compromising positions, and was ordered to delete all of them or else he was going to prison that day. The judge said, if you don't delete them right now, I'm going to put you in prison myself.
This is yet another lie. This did not happen. All the judge said was to not share explicit content of Pinkchyu that was privately filmed. As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he stated that he wants to respect the court's decision and move on.
I lost the civil case. I did. But I do genuinely want to respect the court's decision. I believe, even though I lost the case, I do believe that this still gets me to where I want to go, which is for all parties to simply move on.
Yeah, that's the sign of somebody who was falsely accused. Thank you for showing us this, because this dismantles basically your entire video.
That's pretty much all I want, is for everybody to go their separate ways.
Oh, that was easy. Holy shit, you actually did the work for us at the end of it all.
To be able to move on and find solace and peace in their life. Genuinely.
That's a very kind way to put it. I'd be a lot more mad. I mean, I was furious.
Yeah, you think? It's almost like Tectone was rightfully accused of these things, and the court rightfully found him unsafe. And this was a civil case, too, which means the burden of proof was much lower than a normal case is, but the burden of proof is still high enough for them to deem something wrong with Tectone.
Decision after doing the research, and this isn't even my life. But in times like this, I think we can look back on the words of wisdom from Keemstar about it being a stupid idea to date a chick who does OnlyFans. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
You will not see me in the next video.